My entitled mother is trying to hijack my wedding as she says that the dress I want to get for my wedding simply doesn't match the vision that she has, putting me in a situation where I feel not only judged but incredibly frustrated as well, because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm the oldest child, and the parents that I grew up with versus the parents my sister and brother grew up with are completely different types of parents. They are so strict and controlling, with me especially. So I'm getting married and I'm very anxious about wedding dress shopping. I've lost 70 pounds to try and get in shape, and I thought I would pop into this little dress store to check it out because my beautiful loving niece told me her bestie works there. So I figured maybe I would be comfortable with her best friend when it comes to dress fitting, because honestly I fear going with my mom because she is so judgy and just full of body shaming. So my sister and I walk in and are greeted by this adorable girl, and she just immediately makes me feel welcomed and accepted. And on top of that, I ended up liking a few dresses to try on. Like, this was totally random and just not planned at all. I put on a white one which was pretty, but I didn't feel like myself. It was just way too pure for my heavy metal loving soul. Then she had this new black one. I put it on and all of a sudden I could see everything. The bridesmaids color theme, what the men should wear, and it's just like everything came together. I fell in love with the black one and felt so confident in it. Like, this is the one that I can marry my best friend in. So I FaceTimed my mother-in-law because she's always great and supportive. Then I felt guilty for not FaceTiming my actual mother. And let me just tell you something, that was an absolute mistake. She immediately got sad and jealous and felt left out, even though there was nothing to really be left out on, since this was a random thing, and it was just a thing my little sister and I did in the spur of the moment. Like, we literally just said to ourselves, hey, this looks nice, I've got 10 minutes. Why not? Let's give it a try. It wasn't some like planned thing where we're gonna find the dress. So anyways, she ends up later saying to me that her and my dad hate the black one, and she then says to me, it's not the vision I have for you. You look like the queen of death. You're not gothic, so why wear black? It's like you're going to a funeral. We have to pick a dress we mutually agree on. I mean, where are you at? It looks like a rundown less than $2,000 type of dress. This also doesn't scream traditional wedding at all to me. And I'm like, lady, I'm getting married on a farm. There's nothing traditional about it, let alone anything in my life. She also got mad at my poor dad, who wasn't even there, by the way. And the only reason I even called her in the first place was to at least involve her just a little bit, but boy, did that backfire on me 1000%. She also keeps using my wedding as an excuse to go out and work on her campaigns, and she's always like, oh, I'm doing this so I can help you with your wedding. And it's like, are you kidding me? I didn't ask for a single penny from you, and you've also not offered anything. So please stop using my wedding as some kind of excuse as to why you are leaving the house all the time and not working anymore. For reference, she retired her business early and now doesn't work, and she's like going through a midlife crisis or something like that. Now, she keeps referring to my wedding as her vision and what she sees for me. She then says to me, later on, I don't want to hear that, oh mom, you were right crap. And I'm like, oh my god, this is really a conversation I'm having right now. These are actual words coming out of my mom's mouth. She is literally shaming my decision and not listening to what makes me happy. So I'm also partly in denial that this is even actually happening, but I'm also very heartbroken about it. She never says anything nice to me anymore and makes everything about her, even if she wasn't there or involved in the first place. So right now I don't know what to do. I'm thinking about buying the black dress. I mean, it is super affordable at like $200, which hey, that works for me. Then I'll go and entertain her and try on all of her dresses just to reject them and be like, oh, look at this black one, and then get that one. So seriously, this entire situation is so annoying because right now I really just don't know what to do. Holy crap, your mom is literally trying to hijack your wedding. Like, this is honestly what it sounds like. And I just love it because this is so out of touch. Like, if you want to wear a black dress for your wedding, congratulations, you can do whatever you want. This really is your day and you can make it whatever you want. I mean, I've heard of people getting married in like t-shirts and jeans. Like, dude, this can be whatever you want to make it to be. And I think you've got the right attitude. You're like, okay, we're getting married on a farm, dude. Like, seriously, it doesn't have to be that crazy. And plus, you can customize it however you want. So if I was in your shoes, I would not let my mom take over this wedding. And with that, I say get the dress that you want. If you want to get a black dress and have like a death metal wedding, then dude, go for it. I think that sounds really cool and that would be a fantastic thing to see. Because if you bend to what your mom wants, I guarantee that you're going to regret this and really hate your life. Because she definitely does not sound like a nice person at all. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled Karen snaps at me after I correct her child when he started banging on my cash register, as she said I had no right to talk to him like that, even though she was doing nothing to make things right. Here's what happened. A few months ago, I was working as a cashier at a supermarket. It was a slow day, not many customers around, when I suddenly hear the screams of a child somewhere across the store. He looked about 5 or 6 years old, throwing a full-on temper tantrum. His mom was trying to calm him down by buying him whatever he wanted, but the more she gave him, the louder he screamed for more. Now, I was silently praying they wouldn't end up in my register, but of course, the universe said, nope, you're gonna take care of this. I then sighed as the mother and her demon child walked over to my checkout line. The boy was holding a box of crayons, and after scanning everything with my best fake smile I could possibly give, all that was left was the crayons themselves. The mom then turned to him and said, "Come on, sweetie, let the nice lady scan your crayons. Mommy will give them right back." I even tried to convince him too, but he just started screaming and crying even louder. The mom tried replacing the crayons with something else, but he threw it across the counter, almost hitting me, and started punching the register machine. Now, I'm responsible for everything that happens at my station. So I looked at him and I firmly said, "Hey," and that's it. All I said was "hey" to this kid. And you know what? He froze, he stopped screaming, stopped crying, and just stood there completely silent. But guess who wasn't happy? Yeah, that's right, it's the mom. She glared at me and said, "Don't talk to him like that, he is just a child." I really wanted to reply by saying, exactly, that's why you, the adult, should be showing him how to behave. But instead, I just bit my tongue and I finished the transaction. Afterwards, my coworkers were trying not to laugh and told me I'd probably be in trouble with the department manager. But when I told him what happened, he just said to me, "Don't worry about it. Next time, just call for me or one of the other supervisors to handle it." So at least someone had common sense that day, because this entire scenario was so weird. Okay, if you're one of those parents out there who literally never disciplines your child and then gets upset when someone else tries to do it, you are a terrible parent. You're teaching this kid bad manners and they're absolutely being reinforced when you do nothing to stop it. I don't care how destructive they are, I don't care about any of that. It can all be fixed as long as you stay firm. And I'm absolutely willing to die on that hill, like I do not care. And no, I'm not talking about those kids who have some kind of like disorder or something like that. That's completely different. If there's things outside of their control, I completely understand. But if they are a healthy kid that absolutely is of sound mind and they still act like that and you encourage that by not disciplining them, then guess what? You're the problem here and I don't care what you have to say. So good for the original poster for absolutely shutting this kid down, but shame on this mom for being like, "Wow, he is just a child, don't talk to him like that," because that's obnoxious and she's only doing that kid a massive disservice. Am I the jerk for giving my mom her car back after I told her that I could no longer make payments on it? And despite the fact that this car is in her name, she's starting to freak out as she says she can't afford the payment and is now demanding that I do it instead, putting me in a really weird situation because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm 19 years old and I'm 27 weeks pregnant, which means lately me and my partner, who's a 20-year-old male, have been discussing ways that we can cut back on costs. One of his biggest concerns was car payments, as I have been paying my mom $200 every month for my car ever since I was 16 years old. The deal was that if I was going to drive it, I would have to pay the car payment, but the car is in her name. Now the problem is that the car is not reliable at all. The transmission went out last year, it got replaced, and then it's gone out again. Not to mention the motor needs to be replaced and a lot of other things. We started doing the math and things would be a lot easier for us if we just had one car payment, namely his. Plus, his car would be safer for the baby when she is here. I tried talking to my mom about giving her the car back, but she told me that that wasn't a possibility. When I asked why, she said it would royally screw her over. Well, it turns out that she still owes the bank about $9,000 on that car, even though she bought the car almost 4 years ago for $12,000, and she can't afford $200 a month. I told her that I couldn't either, and the deal was that I would pay for the car if I'm driving it. So since I'm not driving it, I'm not paying for it. Well, now she isn't even talking to me, which is even less than she already was before, and has started telling family members that I screwed her over, which I guess if what she's saying is true, I kind of did, but I don't think I'm wrong for that. I have to think about my future kid and making sure they're safe. Now, there are a lot of other issues that tie into this, but that's the main point of the story. So seriously, am I the jerk for giving the car back? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, if this isn't your mom's name and she was literally only using you for a car payment, then in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. Like, you didn't buy the car, it's not your car. You've only been using it as long as you've been paying it. And from the sounds of it, it kind of seems like she was screwing you over to an extent. Like, the car was breaking down all the time. It literally had a transmission break twice, and she's trying to sit there and be like, "Oh, come on, you're screwing me over. I can't afford to pay $200 a month." Well, it's like, I'm sorry, but I can't do that either. Plus, it's not my car, so I don't know what to tell you. So no, in my opinion, opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think she put herself in this situation by not managing her money properly and literally by giving you a crappy car, which in my opinion is not fair, especially considering that you're pregnant. Am I the jerk for asking my brother to pay my dental bill after his harmless prank literally broke my tooth in half? Because right now, even my own parents are siding with him, saying that I need to let it go and not be so money obsessed, which is really pissing me off and putting me in a situation where I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 24-year-old female and I was visiting my family last weekend, and my brother decided to pull a prank on me. He's always been the type who thinks he's hilarious, even when no one else does. Well, while I was drinking a water bottle, he snuck up behind me and smacked the bottom of it hard. So basically, the bottle hit my face. I then heard a crack immediately. My front tooth chipped pretty badly and it really hurt. Well, at this point, I started crying and my parents rushed over to me. My brother apologized at first, but then started laughing, saying it was just a joke and that I was being dramatic. I then had to go to an emergency dentist that same day, and the bill was around $850 because I needed bonding done. When I sent my brother the bill and asked him to pay it, since it was literally his fault, he got defensive and said, "I didn't mean to break your tooth, it was an accident. You can't seriously expect me to pay that much for something you could have avoided if you weren't so sensitive." Well, to make matters worse, my parents are siding with him, saying that I should just let it go because he didn't mean it and he feels bad enough. But he clearly doesn't feel that bad if he's refusing to pay. Well, now my family is saying that I'm money obsessed and that I'm holding a grudge over a joke. But I told them if it were anyone else, they would agree with me, and I'm honestly considering going no contact for a while after this. So am I the jerk here trying to get him to pay my dental bill? Because right now I'm still really pissed off. Dude, if anybody did that to me, I would lose my mind. Seriously, you're breaking a tooth off in my mouth and you're gonna be like, "Oh, you're too sensitive. What's the big deal? I only assaulted you." Like, does this guy hear himself at all? This is not a case of you being too sensitive. This is literally a case of him breaking your tooth. That's all this comes down to. And he wants to sit there and be like, "Wow, you're overreacting." Not to mention your family taking his side for some stupid reason. Like, what's going on? You're not being money obsessed. You literally were assaulted. Like, this is a big difference, man. So no, he needs to pay that bill. You're definitely not the jerk for sending it his way, and the fact that anybody's taking his side, in my opinion, is absolutely crazy. Am I the jerk for not telling my mom my friend's name, as I knew that she was going to try and use this against me by judging my friends incorrectly? Because after I said no, my mom literally called me 50 times and is now giving me the silent treatment as a result of all of this, thus putting me in a situation where I am incredibly pissed off and very annoyed, because now I feel like I'm at a standstill and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 21-year-old female and I live on campus and have an agreement with my mom that I'll tell her where and when I'm going if I'm going out. A month ago, I told her I was going to hang out with a friend who's also 21. She kept prying for where I was going, how long I'd be out, and how many people would come with me, and how safe the area would be. Now, I willingly gave her the information so that I could just get to where I needed to be. That is, until she asked for my friend's name. I always hate that she assigns biases against my friends based on what race she thinks their name is. I've always blatantly refused to give out names and explained that I don't like when she makes assumptions of my friends. Well, I shut her down when she asked for my friend's name, and as a result, she called me over 50 times. She said she needed the name for safety reasons in case I went missing, but I told her that didn't make any sense since I have my phone and she already knew where I was. I texted her that I was busy because I had arrived and I wanted to enjoy myself, and I said that I would call her later. Well, she ignored this and continued calling me, so I just blocked her. I did not call her back after the event because I was too angry that she disrespected my no, as well as my attempt to set a boundary. And you know what? She has been ignoring me ever since for the past month. I then came home yesterday for a medical appointment, and the silent treatment has become more obvious. She does not speak to me directly and asked my dad to text me instead, asking me things like, "Oh, if I'm hungry," and letting me know that she's left food on the table. She ignored my birthday a few days ago, but also left a birthday gift in my room. Otherwise, she's been ignoring my text messages, and I just continue to act normally despite her silence. I then overheard her calling my dad that she wants me to apologize first. I get that she worries, but this feels more like control than concern. I didn't feel comfortable giving her my friend's name, and I didn't like being called over 50 times after I said no. So am I the jerk here, or is my mom really the one at fault? Because right now I just don't know what to do. Okay, seriously, I think you hit the nail on the head. She doesn't give a crap about where you're going. She just wants absolute control over your life and like literally is doing it in the worst way possible. And you know what? Why does she need to know where you're going on campus? That is so dumb. I know if my mom acted like that, I'd be like, "No, I'm not gonna be doing this. This is so dumb. I literally don't have time for this and I am an adult, so I'm gonna decline." Which, by the way, that's well within your right. It's completely normal for you to be like, "No, I'm not agreeing to this." And the fact that she's judging the people based off of how their name sounds, like her trying to guess what race you're their friends are based on their name? Like, that is crazy, dude. I wouldn't give out names either. That is some super sketchy behavior that honestly I would absolutely shut down as well. So no, you're not the jerk. You didn't do anything wrong. I personally think your mom is being very stupid, and the fact that she's like, no, you apologize first, like, to me shows that she has absolutely zero remorse for this, and instead is just this emotionally immature person who can't own up to her own mistakes. Am I the jerk for asking my girlfriend's brother what kind of man he is after he intentionally ignored our phone calls when we were trying to bring up groceries from the car? Because right now my girlfriend is kind of pissed off at me and I'm not sure if I made a mistake here. Here's what's going on. So my girlfriend and I got into a huge argument because of something I said to her younger brother. And for the sake of the story, I'll call my girlfriend Laura and her younger brother Randall. For context, Randall lives with his sister, who I'll call Anna for the sake of the story. Anna had a big grocery haul today and her van recently kicked the bucket. So Laura and I offered to take her. We drove over to the store, helped with the shopping, and loaded everything into my car. On the drive back, Randall texted Anna asking if she could pick them up some takeout on him. Well, Anna agreed, and so we made an extra stop to go get their food. The plan was, when we got to their apartment building, Randall would come down to the lobby to help us bring up all the groceries and his takeout. And by the way, this was agreed upon when we went to get the takeout because the parking is a pain in the butt and it's a lot to carry alone. So we pull up, we text him, and then we call him. But we get no answer of any kind. We then call him again, but still, we get nothing. We then parked the car properly, which meant that Anna, Laura, and myself had to make multiple trips from the parking lot to the lobby and then up to the apartment lugging all the groceries and the takeout. Now, I'm the first one to get to the door with my hands full with a box and 2 bags. I'm able to knock and he unlocks the deadbolt without even opening the door, and this really pissed me off. So I opened the door for all of us and I set the box and bags down. I then asked him what happened and he just shrugged and said, "Oh, my phone was on silent, sorry." Now, this is the second time he's pulled this exact same garbage. The last time I gave him a sarcastic response about it. I said something like, "Oh, how convenient that you couldn't hear the phone glued to your hand." And I said that when he gave me the same lame excuse as before. But you know what? This time I was fed up. I was tired from carrying everything, and I was annoyed for Anna and Laura who just accept this from him. I looked at him and I said, "Seriously, Randall, what kind of man sits on his butt while his sister and everyone else carries his responsibilities for him?" Well, when I said that, Randall didn't say anything in return and just left the room. But Laura immediately shot me a death glare. After we left the apartment and we were back in the car, she laid into me. She said I was out of line, that it wasn't my place to talk to her brother like that, and that my comment was toxic and emasculating. In fact, we argued the entire way home. I told her that she and her family coddle him way too much, and that he's never going to learn if no one holds him accountable. When we got home and the both of us cooled down just a little bit, I explained my side more calmly. I said that what he did was deeply disrespectful to her, to Anna, who houses him, and to me. He knew we would end up doing the work if he ignored his phone, and he made that choice because he's lazy and there are never any consequences. And Laura was able to see my point of view in this one, or at least that's what she tells me. But I've really started to think about this and I'm kind of wondering if I'm the jerk here. Was I out of line for saying what I said? Because right now I'm honestly still very frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Dude, there's no way in the world I would ever be okay with this kind of behavior. Like, seriously, Randall absolutely did this on purpose. He skated by responsibility once again by ignoring it and being like, "Oh yeah, sorry, my phone was on silent, my bad." But it's like, dude, you're lying. You just didn't want to do it, and so you said, "Oh, I'm gonna put my phone away and just wait for them to come up." And honestly, if this really is some kind of theme and like a common thing that happens all the time, then yeah, calling it out seems like the only thing you can do. Like, this is not a child we're talking about. This is a 22-year-old man. This is someone who absolutely should know better and should at least try to be a little bit more responsible. So no, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I think you did the right thing here. Today, I need to confess that I am kind of the reason that my coworker got fired, as a string of events happened in a way that I never expected, making me feel absolutely horrible as a result. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this was like 3 years ago. I'd become acquainted with a new hire who I will call Ken for the sake of the story. He was in his mid-30s, he was ex-military, and overall he was a good worker. He had started at the company to kind of get on his feet from what I could tell, and he struggled a bit financially. He even asked me for money sometimes, and me, being a bleeding heart softie, I would sometimes help him out when I could. Now, I had another coworker who I'll call Sue, who I had also gotten close to, and it's important to note that she and Ken did not get along at all. From my understanding, Sue just didn't really have the patience to train him when he had first started at the job, and at one point made a comment that resulted in a verbal exchange between the two, and ever since then, they steer clear of each other. So, one day Sue comes up to me and confides that she's secretly dating one of the supervisors, and I'm genuinely just so happy for her. She was in the process of getting out of a toxic marriage, and I was excited about the development. development. Ken and I were then scheduled to work together later that day, and me, feeling a bit gossipy, decided to tell him all about it. Now, I figured that since he was a guy, he wouldn't really care about the information, but holy crap, I was completely wrong, because the next thing I know, he made some snarky remark alluding to the relationship in front of other employees and the supervisor Sue was seeing. The next thing I know, Sue is coming up to me having a breakdown because human resources was now getting involved. She then asked if I had told anybody, and I said no, because I really had not meant for things to escalate like they did. And you know what? Luckily, she believed me, saying that she told a few other people and maybe someone else overheard. Well, by the next day, Ken was escorted out by security and fired for harassment or something like that. And I truly felt horrible. I mean, I still do. But with all things considered, I never told Sue the truth, and honestly, at this point, I never plan to. Okay, this is a hard lesson for pretty much everybody involved, not just the original poster, but also Sue. First things first, if you really are dating someone in the office, it's probably better to keep things under wraps for a while, especially if you want to enjoy your job. Because holy crap, even if you're good friends with someone, chances are they're gonna tell someone else about this and then it's gonna spread like the plague. So I just don't understand why Sue went to this person, was like, oh yeah, I'm dating a supervisor, don't say anything to anybody, and then really thought that they were just gonna keep that quiet. Like seriously, that's so dumb. Why say anything in the first place? Because Sue has gotta know that's gonna look really weird, right? Because I don't know about you, but anybody who's dating some kind of upper management is not viewed very favorably in the eyes of pretty much everybody below them. But it's also really funny to me that Sue's like, did you say anything? I don't know what happened. Because if I was the original poster, I absolutely would lie as well. I would be like, nope, I don't know, I didn't say anything, it's not me. And I would happily whistle past that graveyard, like good lord. So yeah, this is just one big mess up after another, and honestly, this could have been avoided if Sue just literally kept her mouth shut. Because if she had said nothing, then nothing would have happened. Ken would have kept his job, Sue would have been happy, and everything would have been fine. But instead, she wanted to tell someone to brag about it, I guess, and that caused a domino effect that I'm sure nobody was expecting. An entitled Karen demands that I leave a water park simply because I have tattoos on my body, claiming that I'm trying to sway her kids and corrupt the children around me into getting tattoos for themselves. Things get so bad that she even tries to get a security guard to throw me and my friends out of this park. Here's what happened. So since it has started to warm up, me and some of my friends, all 19 to 22 years old, decided to go on a road trip, and we decided the appropriate thing to do is to go to a water park as well as a theme park that were right next to each other and just spend a few days out there for spring break. So we get the theme park out of the way first and have a good time, and then a few days later, we head to the water park. So here's the thing, it's a water park, so obviously I'm gonna have my shirt off for a large amount of the time. I also happen to have a few tattoos, not to the point where my whole body is essentially covered, but I do have a good amount. I have one on my wrist that is barely even noticeable, which is some Japanese writing. The other one is on my other wrist, and it's kind of hard to explain, but it basically wraps around my wrist and has some lines crossing out of it. And it's way better than it sounds, I swear. The third and final one is the most noticeable one, since it is a big back tattoo of a cross. Anyways, we get there and the first day goes really well. It's a huge water park, so we obviously want to ride all of the slides. So I'm walking back to our table from the bathroom, and when I'm almost there, this lady, looking like she's in her mid-40s, walks up and actually stops me. And this is the entitled Karen of the story. I'm a bit confused, so I just wait a minute before saying, yeah, can I help you? And she immediately says that she has kids here and she doesn't want to see that. And when she said that, I did not know what she's referring to and was kind of hoping that nothing was sticking out of my shorts. This entitled Karen then immediately points to one of my tattoos on my wrist. She says, that. I don't want to see that. I respond to her by saying, my tattoo? Is there anything wrong with it? She says, yes, this is a place for kids, and I don't want you influencing them to get one of those things. So I'm not really annoyed, I'm just confused, since this is a place where 90% of the people have their shirts off, and at least a few of them will have tattoos of some kind. So I tell her just that, ma'am, this is a public place, and everyone has their shirt off. A good amount of them probably have some tattoos as well. Now, as you could probably guess, she just completely ignores everything that I just said and tells me to put a shirt on, which I obviously just say, no, I'm not gonna do that. She then tells me to put one on or she's gonna call security. So I tell her, okay, go ahead and do that. And to my surprise, she walks off. I go back to my table and I sit down with my friends, and they were literally watching everything go down, and I am a bit nervous since even though I know I wasn't in the wrong, I still didn't want to get in trouble with security. About 5 minutes later, when me and my friends go to another slide slide, she comes running up to us with a security guard right behind her. She turns to this security guard and tells him that I wasn't supposed to have my tattoos out in the open, and he was just as confused as I was, since he didn't see anything wrong, and she didn't say specifically it was the tattoos. He asked her what she was talking about, and she gets even more mad and points at my tattoos and says, "Those right there, that's what I'm talking about." He asked her what's wrong with it, and she goes off on both of us, saying how I shouldn't have those in a kid's place, and she doesn't want her kids seeing this. The security guard turns to me and my friends and apologizes for her, and tells her to stop bothering me. Realizing she was not winning, the entitled Karen eventually storms off, and I continue my trip with all of my friends. And thankfully, even though I saw this Karen a few more times in the park, I didn't have to deal with her or her horrible attitude ever again. That Karen is literally being obnoxious. Like, first off, it doesn't sound like any of those tattoos were like super offensive. If they were a little bit sketchy or even had some kind of like writing or drawings on it that might not be appropriate for kids, I might even understand just a little bit why this entitled Karen would get upset. But even then, somebody else's tattoos on their body are none of your business. Like, literally just leave people alone. If you don't want your kids seeing that, then have your kids avoid that person. Like, that's my opinion at least. Let me know if you have a different opinion down in the comments. But straight up telling somebody that no, you have to leave because I don't like those tattoos, that's honestly ridiculous and so uncalled for. I'm sure those tattoos had some kind of meaning to the original poster, so it's also especially insulting for this Karen to be like, "Oh my god, they're so disgusting." Like, what are you talking about? You don't know them. You don't know why they got those tattoos in the first place. They could mean something really sentimental and you just don't even know. So thankfully, the security in this situation had the right head on their shoulders, and they didn't take this garbage from this entitled Karen for a second. She was clearly out of line, and she had no business bothering the original poster in the way that they did. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My girlfriend broke up with me because I was incompatible with her friend, and now I want to try and get back together with her as well as make amends with this friend, but I seriously don't know what to do. Last week, my now ex-girlfriend of 2 months broke up with me. I had been friends with her friend first, and we had been friends for roughly 8 years. My ex-girlfriend had been friends with her for over 10 years, and before entering into a relationship, I was friends with my ex-girlfriend first. Her friend felt I didn't care about her friendship anymore. I don't know what I did or said that may have potentially started her friend to feel this way, but her friend never told me personally, and I learned from my ex-girlfriend. I tried to make amends by calling her, but she has expressed doubt, insincerity, and has questioned my intentions on multiple occasions, feeling like I was only doing certain actions to please my girlfriend. Some of the times, she, meaning my girlfriend's friend, has questioned my intentions, and some of those incidents involved me giving her a birthday gift or coming to a birthday dinner or other activities. She invited me to go golfing for her birthday, but I declined because of financial reasons, which really did upset her. My ex-girlfriend tried to get us to reconcile and be friends, but in her attempts, she has mentioned many occasions where her friend has expressed doubts in our relationship and has mentioned things that were deemed warning signs of incompatibility. Some of these things include having difficult values and things that I have said in the past, such as putting success above other things, but overall has failed to give full context. So I ended up explaining and giving the full context to my girlfriend. My girlfriend consistently pressured and brought up how the situation made her feel stuck in the middle. I tried to not talk about it in fear of making it worse, but she took that as a sign of unwillingness to speak about it. Unfortunately, it made me frustrated hearing the things her friend had to say about how I was not compatible as a dating partner with her. I sent her friend a text message expressing that I was sorry for not going golfing, but also felt our friendship was stagnant and very unhealthy. This text message, which my now ex-girlfriend was aware of and okay with prior to sending, which would then become upset about the following day, was pressuring me and focusing on my inability and my unwillingness to speak and reconcile. That's how this got twisted into something it wasn't. So I asked for a break of not talking to just think about how I would want to respond and the current state of our relationship. During this break of less than a week, before I could even give a proper response, my ex-girlfriend wanted to break up because I was so unwilling to let go of a friendship and that I was unwilling to speak about issues that were really important to her. During our discussion, I suppressed a lot of my personal feelings, and I was trying to look at the bigger picture of still wanting to be in a relationship with her. I do think that my girlfriend put her friend's feelings over mine and was more influenced by what her friend had to say over what I said and felt. I know that I made mistakes both in my friendship and my relationship, and I apologize to my ex-girlfriend for failing to be responsible and considerate in certain aspects. I do still want to try to be with her, but she is unsure if she wants to be with me. I reached out once again to her friend, trying to reconcile our differences, but I have yet to hear anything back. I had a genuine care for her friend before, but after hearing some of the hurtful things that her friend said, I was unsure on what to think about the current state and whether it was a friendship worth pursuing. This is honestly so fresh, and I'm not sure how to approach the current situation. Is this something I should still be pursuing, both as a relationship and as a friendship? What should I do? Honestly, if I was in your situation and I had a girlfriend that was that easily swayed by some dumb friend who was getting upset over the stupidest things possible, there's no way I would stick around with that relationship at all. Like seriously, your friend got upset because you didn't want to go golfing, which also literally goes back to the fact that you didn't go because of financial reasons. It's not that you didn't want to go and spend time with her, you literally couldn't afford it. And the fact that she can't understand that is really toxic. That's a massive red flag right there. It also sounds like your ex-girlfriend is not all there, if you will. She tried to claim all this stuff of like, oh, you're just not willing to speak. And she's trying to extrapolate all these minor instances into something that it's not, literally making mountains out of molehills. And she was super easily swayed by her stupid friend that clearly had some kind of axe to grind with you. So I seriously think you can find much better relationships than this. They clearly do not have their ducks in a row, and in my opinion, I think you would be so much better off finding somebody else. An entitled customer demands that I make change for him at the convenience store I work at. But after I tried over and over again to explain that I don't have the change he needs, he freaks out on me and demands that I do it anyways. So I maliciously comply, and by the end of it, this guy walks out with 99 $1 coins after buying a candy bar with a $100 bill. And I've never been happier to maliciously comply in my life. Here's what happened. Years ago, I worked at a convenience store, and this store handled a lot of cash. We had a sign stating that bills over $20 were only accepted with manager approval. In practice, we could accept them after using the detector pen as well as a visual inspection. We also had a policy that we had to keep the cash in the drawer under a certain amount. We had a safe system to make deposits and get change, but it had limits and timers when dispensing. Depending on what was needed, it would take 30 minutes to make change for a $100 bill. So I was solo on the graveyard shift, and I kept my drawer low, and I didn't have to request change often. The drawer had 5 slots for bills and 5 pockets for coins, but we only kept 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s in the slots. Other bills and checks were put under until we had enough for a drop. The extra coin pocket was used for dollar coins, $half coins, as well as coins that people left. So if someone was a few cents short, we did have some spare change we could share. I kept my drawer under the limit. When I was on the graveyard, I was solo, and I kept my drawer very low and didn't have to request change that often. One night, one of our odd regulars came in and bought a bunch of stuff, and he paid with a $1 coin. They didn't fit the safe tube, so I had to keep them in the drawer. It was just over $100 in coins. I spread it out over all the slots so the one side wouldn't get too heavy, and the cash drawer would stick if it was too lopsided. I had also made a lot of change for payphones, as well as the air and water machines, or if people were buying items just to get change for laundry. I was down to 3 $1 bills, some dollar coins, 0 quarters, a few dimes, and some nickels, as well as a bunch of pennies. Well, in walks a guy, and he comes up to the register with a 10-cent candy bar. He then slaps a $100 bill on the counter. I ask him if he will be getting anything else, and he says no. I then ask if he has anything smaller in terms of bill denomination, and he says no again, but a little bit louder. So I tell him, don't worry then, the candy is on the house. I can use the have a penny, leave a penny money just to pay for it. But when I say this, he gets mad and says he won't take charity, and I need to make change for him. I try to explain that I don't have the cash in my drawer, and it would take about 30 minutes to get the change, but he keeps interrupting me and not listening. He yells at me, "You are legally required by law to take my legal tender and make change for me right now." And he had this giant attitude about him. So I say to him, okay. He tries to act smug like he won something when I pick up the bill and take it away from him. I pull out my detector pin and he starts complaining and moaning. I use the pen in view of the camera. Then I hold the bill up to inspect it in the view of the camera. I then put the bill in a safe tube to drop it in, as we are supposed to drop large bills on graveyard before even opening the drawer. Then I make the slip and I drop that afterwards. The customer is still standing there smugly grumbling, and I enter the amount tendered into the register. Now the counter is raised and the drawer is just below the counter, counter, so it's out of reach of the customers unless they lean and reach over. It also doesn't pop open like usual this time because of the weight of all the coins. I open the drawer and I push the 3 singles back in their slot so that the customer can't see them even if he leans over to look in the drawer. He's being dramatic and turning to make a show of how long he is waiting and making a face of, "Oh, can you believe this?" to an audience of literally no one. So he doesn't notice at first that I'm pulling all of those $1 coins out. I pull out all the 88 cents or so in change, mostly nickels, and then start pulling out all the dollar coins and putting them on the counter. He turns around and sees the coins and asks me, "What in the world is this?" So I tell him, "I am required by law to accept legal tender and make change. You are required by law to accept the legal tender as change. This is what I have available." He continues having a fit, saying, "Well, you should have told me." But I tell him, "Well, I tried explaining, sir, but you kept interrupting me and insisting that I make you change." I go back to counting out the $99 coins. He is silent for a bit and then asks me, "How in the world am I supposed to get this home?" So I told him that I'm not responsible for his change after I give it to him. Eventually, he gathers up the rest of the coins and kind of makes a pseudo pocket and slinks off into the darkness. So maybe next time, if this guy learned how to listen, he would avoid having to carry around 99 $1 coins simply because he was being stubborn. Honestly, that guy got exactly what he deserved. He was being so rude to this guy at the cashier desk. He was not letting them talk. He was not listening to anything they were saying. And honestly, this is what you get. Just treat cashiers with respect. Like, is it seriously that hard? Especially when they're just being normal and nice to you. Like, this guy came in with a chip on his shoulder and was obviously trying to make change. And if he had just listened, he could have avoided this entire fiasco in the first place. I believe that my parents resent me for starting my own family. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So I had somewhat of a revelation this weekend. I'm still processing how I feel about it and considering if I should confront my parents. Anyways, here it is. I believe my parents resent me for starting my own family. I'm a 40-year-old male and I come from a big family. I'm the second oldest of 9 kids. My older sister, by the name of Jessica, that's not her real name, is just a year older than me. There is a 6-year gap between me and the next sibling. Then my mom had a kid every 2 or 3 years. Since Jessica and I were the oldest, we always helped with the little kids as well as the chores around the house. In fact, it was common for my parents and the other adults to refer to us as a separate group than the kids. It's like Jessica and I were not even considered children. It's more like we were 2 other adults living in the house. We were homeschooled, so we were home all the time. Part of my supposed job is that I would wake up, make breakfast for the kids, then get them started with their school and other activities before I start my own schoolwork. Jessica would sleep in because she was more of a night owl, and it was her job to help at night with the baby because, of course, there was always a baby. Jessica and I did most of the chores around the house. We took turns either cleaning the kitchen or doing the laundry, and as you can probably guess, there was a lot. I did all of the guy stuff like mowing the lawn and taking out the trash. As I got older, I would delegate some of these chores to my younger brothers, but it was still my responsibility to make sure it all got done. Once I was old enough to drive, I would run errands and take the kids everywhere. I can't tell you how many times I would take the kids to things like play dates or doctor's appointments. I would often tuck the kids in bed and tell them stories. To me, these things were all just normal, but looking back on it, I was more like a second dad to the kids rather than a brother. Now, Jessica and I did have a lot of freedom as teenagers to go out with our friends. That is, if the chores were done. We didn't have cell phones back then, and if we wanted to go out, we would have to just tell our parents we were going out, and they honestly didn't care, as long as we were back by the next morning. I moved out of the house when I was 20 years old, but I still spent a lot of time at my parents', and one of my younger siblings was almost always at my house. One brother, by the name of Jacob, not his real name, pretty much lived with me since he was about 14, because he and our mom just didn't get along. When Jacob was 17 years old, he got into a car accident and ended up calling me instead of dad, because I was just the one who handled these types of things. During all of this time, my parents always talked about how important it was for Jessica and myself to help out with the kids, because they were just too busy with their ministry. I can't count how many times I had to drop what I was doing just to take care of something because my mom and dad were counseling someone else. Now, I had not dated much when I was younger, but when I was 25 years old, I met and started dating my girlfriend by the name of Sarah. Sarah is not her real name. We fell in love fast, and got married less than a year later. My younger siblings love Sarah. She is a great cook and a great hostess. Our house became the hangout spot almost instantly. My younger siblings started calling her Mama Sarah, something they still do to this day. We have now been married for 15 years and we have 2 kids of our own. My mom and Jessica did not like Sarah. Jessica and Sarah get along okay now, but Sarah and my mom do not have a good relationship. I never understood why, but I think I have finally figured out it's because they see it as Sarah taking me away. As Sarah and I focus on our relationship and starting our own family, I spent less and less time doing things for my parents. My dad liked Sarah at first, but over the past few years, their relationship has soured as well. Throughout the years, my dad has made comments to me about keeping up my responsibilities. One time, he called me about one of the younger siblings who had gotten in a fight with my mom and said, "You better get your brother and change his attitude. It's not okay how he treated your mother, and you are going to make him apologize." A few years ago, Sarah and I had to set some boundaries with my parents, telling them we were not going to raise or discipline their children. Our home is always open to my siblings, but we no longer let my parents try to use us to straighten them up. And as you can probably guess, my parents have not taken this well. About a year ago, Sarah injured her foot and couldn't walk for a while. Just as she was getting better, I was diagnosed with kidney disease, which then turned into kidney failure. I've had several surgeries, with another one coming up in a few weeks. It's been a rough year, and during this time, my parents have not only refused to help, they have actively made things harder for us. Things like promising to help with our kids, but then canceling at the last minute, and it's usually because of some ministry-related thing. Recently, my sister-in-law, who lives in another state, had a baby, and my mom has been staying with her and helping her for the past 6 weeks. My sister-in-law has said that my mom is a godsend and is so wonderful. My dad has also gone to help every weekend. Now, when I found this out, this really hurt me, because my mom wouldn't even give us a single night to help with our youngest when he was born. Anyways, I'm sorry this post turned out longer than I thought it would be. I needed to get some of this off my chest. This weekend, I was talking to another sister and telling her how I don't understand why mom and dad don't treat me like they do the rest of the kids. It seems like I'm not even one of their children anymore, and it just kind of hit me that they resent me for getting married and starting my own family and leaving them to raise their own kids. Part of me is relieved to finally realize why they treat me the way they do, and part of me is really sad. I'm kind of scared about this upcoming surgery, and I really wish I had a parent I could talk to about it, but I don't feel like I have any parents, and I just have people that I co-parented my siblings with. This has all just been very frustrating, and it honestly has been a lot to take in. What an awful circumstance. Your parents sounded like they were very absent in your upbringing, like they pretty much passed off everything to you and your sister, and that's really weird to me. I totally understand that, you know what, you have a big family, and you probably had to help out to make sure things happen, but that shouldn't be at the cost of your parents being parents. Like, there's no reason for them to just pass it along and say, okay, it's your job now. Like, no, that's not how this works. And if I was in your shoes, I would have set up boundaries as well. If I'm trying to start my own family and I'm trying to do my own thing, I should not have to step in and discipline someone else's kids, even if they are my own siblings. That's not fair in the slightest, and it should not be that way. It sounds like mom and dad have to step up, and I really feel like you did the right thing by saying no, enough is enough. And I think you hit the nail on the head. They clearly no longer have a freebie when it comes to getting their kids taken care of. So good for you for thinking about you and your wife and your kids first. It really does suck the way your parents are treating you, and I honestly am so sorry for what you're dealing with. But hopefully one day they can come around and see that you are a valuable member of the family, and you truly deserve to be treated like family in the first place. An entitled Karen threatens to call the police over a children's soccer game, demanding that we get out of the way so her team can play ultimate frisbee. And I'm honestly blown away by this entitled Karen's audacity. Here's what happened. Thanks to spring being spring, we had to make up my kid's soccer game. The other coach and I both happen to have Thursdays at 5 p.m. practice times, so we just moved practice to the game fields themselves. The club confirmed the field space was available, and everything should be golden. Since the club uses the park for practice during the week too, they know which fields they pay to use. For context, these are 10 to 12-year-olds, and it's recreational soccer. The park we are playing at is a pretty big sports complex with space for a lot of other sports, with a large green area if needed. Our soccer club leaves goals up during the season on about half the space because of the agreement with the city, and the field we use does have them up all the time. The game is rolling along, and we are about midway through the second half when a woman with a stroller walks over and starts talking to the other coach. As I wander back, I note that the body language of my fellow coach is a bit disgruntled. She and I have been coaching the same age group since our kids were about 3, so I know enough to recognize something is up. So I move close enough to listen in, and I hear the following. This entitled Karen says, "We have the fields right now, so you need to get out of here." The coach responds by saying, "I am not sure what to tell you. We have maybe 15 minutes left, and I am not gonna make these kids stop playing the game just for you." The entitled Karen says, "When this happened last time, my Frisbee League had to wait almost 30 minutes. We pay for the space, and it is ours, so you need to do something." The coach responded again by saying that it's only 15 minutes, and that we will clear out very quickly. This Karen said, "No, we pay for this space, and you can't be here. You need to leave. The last time this happened, I was told to call the cops if it happened again, and I will do it again if I need to." The coach then looked at her stunned. She said, "You want to call the cops because of a kid's soccer game that will be done in 15 minutes? The entitled Karen then saw that her strategy was failing. She then screamed out, "You need to leave. We have Ultimate Frisbee here every Thursday, and we pay for the field, so you are in our way." At this point, the coach is just literally staring blankly at this entitled Karen. Getting frustrated, she responds by saying, "So what are you gonna do?" And the coach comes back with an awesome one-liner. She looks at her and says, "We're gonna finish the game." At this point, the entitled Karen walks off in a huff and goes over to a group of maybe 5 people and is gesturing and pointing at us. From the body language alone, I'm guessing that the others in her group are not as adamant about running off a bunch of kids playing soccer. The other coach asked me if I heard what she said, and I told her that yes, I definitely did. Apparently, this entitled Karen then started to say, "You need to leave right now or I will call the cops." I messaged our club after the game as an FYI because I really don't want to have another team deal with this again or have someone actually call the cops and cause more issues. They then updated me and told me that the soccer club actually pays for the fields that we were on, and they pay for it every day during the week all the way up until 6 p.m. And at the time this conversation started, it was only 5:40 in the evening. So this entitled Karen was completely out of line. What was that entitled Karen thinking? She seriously was going to call the cops on a bunch of kids playing soccer? Like seriously, that's really your strategy? And even if they do show up, the cops aren't going to do anything. They're going to look at this lady and be like, "What are you doing? You seriously are throwing a hissy fit over this?" And to top it all off, this entitled Karen was wrong. She was completely wrong. She didn't know what she was talking about, and she was literally just making things up. She threatened to call the police over nothing. So hopefully this entitled Karen learns how to tell time, because from the sounds of it, I think she could use all the help she could get. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My parents are obsessed over everything that I do, and it's gotten to the point where they are very controlling and they make comments about everything that I do on a daily basis. And it's seriously so frustrating and I don't know what to do. So I feel really distressed and I'm actually not sure what to do. I love my parents deeply and they did so much good to me. Happy moments, mainly from my childhood, pass me by in my mind, and then I see what's happening right now and it really just tears me up. I love them so much, but I know their behavior is hurting me. For some context, I'm a 21-year-old female, and my parents became obsessed with me being single and weird. I've dated when I was 19, but they didn't like it because they said I was too young. I tried dating after that, but I haven't met anyone suitable for me. Since maybe 7 months ago, they became obsessed with the idea of me getting a boyfriend and the fact that I'm not getting any for now. Dating is a nightmare for me. Once I meet a guy, they start controlling me. They interfere too much, and there's this whole drama around if I decide the guy isn't right for me. I already decided to hide every next guy I'd be meeting. However, nowadays they got obsessed with me being weird, and weird according to them means that I dress in a weird way. For example, I like accessories such as chains. I've always liked them, and I wear some fancy makeups as well, and it makes me feel happy. It makes me feel more confident about myself, and I think it's appropriate for my age, as I'm still young, and even if I'm not anymore. If there isn't a serious problem with it, honestly, who cares? It drives me crazy. They love bothering me from time to time with stupid stuff like, why do you want to be unique too much? And I don't get it because, well, I don't. I just like that kind of style, and I don't understand why I shouldn't, as an adult, wear those types of clothing. And this is all simply because they don't like it. And of course, it has to do with the boyfriend obsession, them stating that no one will want to be with me, and no one wants me, period. Their obsession makes me feel terrible. It's that bad that they keep comparing me to random people. I hear them say stuff like, I see couples everywhere on the street, and it drives me crazy. I mean, isn't it a little bit creepy that two 50-year-olds keep observing random young couples when they're shopping? They can even say that I don't act normal because I carry a cup of coffee in my hand, along with my phone, and I don't wear skinny skinny jeans. It's so absurd, I know, and that's why I'm kind of terrified and incredibly sad that they're still trying to obsess over me and prove that I'm bad and I'm weird. Now, maybe I'm exaggerating, but I don't think I have major problems with guys simply because of how I look. The situationships I've been in didn't work out because the guys had major red flags that honestly really bothered me. And of course, sometimes I was refused by guys from Tinder, and I'm honestly okay with that. It's natural. However, my parents don't believe me, and they still keep bugging me about their garbage, telling me it's all for my own good. But no, it's for your idea about my life that you've created 21 years ago, and now they're just frustrated that a living, autonomous human being doesn't want to follow their script. I'm so tired because I keep getting these quarrels every day. I'm a sensitive and nostalgic person, and it hurts me a lot as I know my parents are good in general. I'm thankful for many things they gave me, and I love them. However, now they're just hurting me, to the point that I recognize physical issues are causing stress. I won't yield because it's my life, and I'm tired of these compromises about my private life that will mostly affect me in the long run. I have no possibility of moving out, getting a job, or therapy for now, as I'm a student with 2 majors. I've tried talking calmly. I've tried screaming, arguing, crying, begging, but nothing works. I feel terrible when I leave the topic alone without talking it through, but it only makes me feel worse overall. I feel I need to learn how to argue with them or stop talking back when they start the topic and not feel guilty about walking away. What should I do? This sounds like a really rough situation. It sounds like your parents are hyper-focused on your life and they really are not letting you live your own life, and that's not fair. Maybe they do come from a place where they really care and they're trying to help out, but from the sounds of it, it really seems like they're being overbearing, and that's not fair. Like, that really is obnoxious, and to get this day in and day out would really make anybody go nuts. So I kind of understand where you're coming from. I think honestly, you kind of hit the nail on the head earlier. It seems like you can't get a job and you can't move out based on your school schedule and stuff like that, which, by the way, I would start working on that now. Like, find a job over the summer or something to work through, but maybe putting them on an information diet would do you a lot of good. Like, maybe that's all it takes. Only give them the information that they really need to know, but keep your private life to yourself. You don't owe them an explanation for the way you dress or the things that you do. If you're not hurting anybody and you're not doing any kind of harm to the people around you, then there's nothing wrong with what you're wearing. It's an expression of the fashion that you enjoy, nothing more, nothing less. So hopefully this gets better for you, and hopefully one day you're able to move out and have your own life, because from the sounds of it, it looks like your parents are being really obnoxious, and you honestly do not deserve that. An entitled Karen demands that everybody around her get out of the way so that she can move through, and she was so rude about this and so obnoxious that I was so glad to see another customer put them in their place. Here's what happened. So I was shopping at my local supermarket, and once my trolley was full, I headed to the checkouts. The queues for the staff checkouts were long, so I decided to take my chances at the quieter self-checkouts. I stood behind a couple that had a full trolley and had just started unloading. It was still going to be a bit of a wait for me, but that would give me time to look at my groceries and figure out how I had exceeded my weekly budget yet again. Now, the couple in front of me were both very tall, and they were tall enough that they could easily have been on a basketball team. Unpacking a trolley at the checkout beside us was a mom with a toddler. The toddler was pushing boundaries as a little one does, and the mom was handling the energetic little boy and unpacking pretty much like a pro. Behind her and beside me was an older man who was delighted to watch the toddler's antics. Directly across from this supermarket is an Aldi. I saw a woman exiting there and walking in a straight line directly towards us. She was pushing a half-full Aldi trolley and walking along with a boy who was about 12 years old. I look around and the entrance to our supermarket is literally just 30 feet away from us, but the Aldi mom just keeps coming straight at us. I wonder if she knows the tall woman or the toddler mom and she's coming over to say hello or something like that. But nope, she doesn't know anyone. She walks up and stops with her trolley centered in front of the toddler mom and the tall woman. She then basically gives them a really frustrated look. It's right about then that I realize she is trying to walk through. Now I'm looking at the space available between the two self-checkouts, and there is not much between the two of them. Two sets of trolleys with people on either side is a close squeeze, and there's just enough space for maybe a slim person to walk through. The Aldi woman says, "Excuse me," and the tall woman turns around and says, "Yes?" This woman then says, "I need to get through." The tall woman responds by saying, "There's not enough room for you to get through." And that's when this entitled Karen says, "Well, can you please move?" The tall woman looks at her husband, who is shaking his head in disbelief, and then she says, "Move where exactly?" Now, our lack of space to move is apparently not this entitled Karen's problem, as she says, "Can you just move? I'm in a hurry." The tall woman then looks back at at her and says, "Aren't we all in a hurry?" And then she casually turns around and goes back to unpacking her trolley. The toddler mom, who has also stopped to watch, then continues to unpack as well. This entitled Karen looks from side to side with an expression that says that she has never been treated like this ever before. She turns her trolley and begins walking towards the entrance, but not without her parting shot, as she says to her son in a voice for all to hear, "Some people are just rude." But the tall woman quickly responds by saying, "Yeah, some people are so rude. And if you are here to buy some manners, as you clearly have none, I think you can find them on aisle 4. The old man beside me bursts into laughter and is so loud that people nearby turn to look. Toddler mom thinks it's funny and she laughs as well. The toddler doesn't get the joke, but when he sees his mom laughing, he laughs as well. The entitled Karen's face then turns bright red as she walks away as fast as she can. Honestly, what was this entitled Karen thinking? Did she really think everyone was just gonna levitate out of the way just so she could go along her way? Like, what are you talking about? She very easily could have just gone around instead of just being rude to everybody around them. Like, that was completely unnecessary and honestly a little uncalled for. I always hate dealing with people like that who have some kind of chip on their shoulder and act like the world owes them everything. And I bet if there was room and this lady was just a little bit nicer, everybody around her would have been like, "Oh sure, yeah, go ahead through." But it was really cool to see the taller lady put this entitled Karen in their place. They did not miss a beat and they honestly handled this like a pro. My husband wants me to have a more motherly role to my stepkids, but I'm honestly not wanting to do that because I feel like our relationship is fine the way it is. And now I seriously don't know what to do. So my husband and I have been married for almost a year, but we've been together in total for about 3 years. We also have a 4-month-old daughter, and he has 2 other children from a previous relationship. His daughter is 12 and his son is 13. I have always gotten along with them for the most part. When they first met me, there was some confusion about who I was, as well as what was going on, and I think there was some slight jealousy, but that seems pretty normal to me under the circumstances. They are really good kids and have never given us much trouble. We get them every other weekend, and we take them on a couple of vacations a year with us. His daughter and I are especially close, and she absolutely loves her new sister and was really interested in the pregnancy, and we go out alone together a lot. I have always just tried to be their friend and not take on a super motherly role because I really didn't feel like they needed that from me. We didn't know that we were going to end up getting married and with a kid of our own at first either. I do all that I feel that I can while still only seeing them for 4 days a month. My husband has talked to me about taking on a more motherly role. Now, I am so confused and unclear as to what he means by this. I do pickups and I do drop-offs, I handle food, I hang out with them, and I take them all kinds of places. They very rarely get into any kind of trouble, so I don't think it's a discipline thing. I have asked him and he said that it feels like I am more of a friend to them than I am a mother, and he feels like he's the only parent to them. I told him that I don't know what else I should do, and if he has any suggestions, I'm honestly listening. He can't give me any kind of answers, and he's just expressing some kind of feeling that he has, instead of anything concrete that I can actually work on. So we were all in the living room doing our own thing, and his daughter was asking questions about the baby. My husband starts saying to them that now that we're married, I am just as much of a mother as their actual mother, and it is important to him that they see me that way. He came up with this example that if we're out in a public place and someone asks if I'm their mom, they can say yes. It was really awkward for everyone, and they basically said it would be weird to call me mom. I said that was fine with me, and they do not have to say that if they don't want to, but I could tell that my husband was really annoyed with me. Also, by the way, I can't wait to hear how their mother feels about this. She already really does not like me. So later, I tried to talk to him about it. I tried again to get some kind of clarification on what he expects from us, and again, he could not give me a solid answer. I asked him if he thinks I'm doing something wrong towards them, and he said no. I told him that he shouldn't try to push this on them, and that they were clearly very uncomfortable. I told him he was going to make them resent me if he pushes this relationship, and that our current relationship was just fine. This then turned into a huge argument that has lasted for 2 days, that has turned into fighting about everything else, and this is more so than anything else we've ever fought about. Does anyone have any idea of what this could be about? Am I doing something wrong by just trying to be their friend? What should I do? I honestly see things from the original poster side here. You are not their biological mother. He is the parent. And I think having some kind of relationship with these kids, who are practically teenagers at this point, will really keep everybody happy in the household. Your husband is pushing something onto you that is neither needed or wanted by anybody. He's the only one who wants this for some weird reason. It makes me think that maybe there's something vindictive going on behind the scenes between him and his ex-wife that maybe you're just not aware aware of. Like maybe his ex-wife is being weird and making him feel jealous or something like that, and he's trying to force you into a role that she never was. I don't know, just a random thought, but whatever's going on in his head, he seriously needs to straighten up. He's asking you to do something that's really uncomfortable. Everybody really doesn't want this, and he's the only one who's on board for something you don't want. So hopefully he can kind of turn things around, because the way he's acting is really overbearing, and no one in this family wants that in the slightest. My fiance constantly makes jokes about when I was overweight. He even went as far as to say that if I was just 10 pounds heavier, he absolutely would have cheated on me. And this is now all so upsetting, and I seriously don't know what to do. So I'm a 26-year-old female, and I've been engaged with my 27-year-old fiance for about a year now. We've been together for 2 years since June, and when we first met, I was definitely overweight. He never seemed to mind at all. He actually made me feel confident. We would take showers together, he would compliment me on my outfits, and then about a year into our relationship, after he proposed to me, something just switched, and he would say things like, "If you get over 190 pounds again, I'm leaving you. I really don't like fat women, but you're an exception." And it would be things like that, just generally very mean things. I don't know if I was just love blind or what, but I somehow didn't get offended by this. Instead, it kind of motivated me. I fell in love with the gym, I started working out on a regular basis, and I'm a pretty active person now. I still have a lot of work to do, but I'm generally very fit and I have a nice shape. Here's where the issue is. Once I started becoming healthier and I had a visibly different look, the comments shifted. He started saying things like, "I wasn't attracted to you before you started working out." Or he would say, "You were 10 pounds away from me cheating." And this is the one that really got me. He even told his friends who came over one night that I used to be a sloppy person, if you know what I mean. He says it in a joking manner, and I usually just brush it off. But last Thursday night, I kind of snapped. I told him how it was really hurtful to hear how he really felt about me. And this is with me not even knowing it at the time, and that it still made me feel insecure even now. It's almost like he really didn't even like me. He completely made it seem like I was just trying to start an argument because he said that he means well, and that I'm taking what he said out of context, and that his intention was that he was trying to be happy for me. He said I should just learn to accept his sense of humor, but I'm really growing to resent it. I feel like I'm always the butt of the joke, and him not even considering my feelings has really made me consider leaving him. There are so many other jokes. He literally says them all the time. It's like I was such a turnoff then, and yet he would still compliment me. It feels so sneaky to me. I've been conflicted with everything because everyone makes it seem like, well, you're not that person anymore, so he still loves you. But it's so easy to become that person again, and even still, I don't want to be with someone who has that much disdain for someone based solely on their size, despite the fact that I'm not that size anymore. He seems to believe that I'm looking for reasons to leave him now that I look good, which are his words, not mine, as if loving myself isn't reason enough. So would you personally try to make this work if you felt like the joke was always on you? What should I do? Your fiance is being unbelievably toxic. How on earth can he seriously say that and expect you to want to be with him in the slightest? Like, that's just an awful thing to say, because right now he is obviously showing some very true colors. He is proving to you that, yeah, he really doesn't respect you, and back when you were a little bit overweight, he didn't respect you then either. Why on earth would he say, "Oh, you're 10 pounds away from me cheating on you"? Like, what is happening right now? This guy is supposed to be your future husband. Like, what is happening right now? And there's no justifying that. There's no justifying him talking to you in that manner, because he literally just confessed he would cheat on you if you were just a little bit heavier. And in my eyes, that is just unacceptable. You should not be treated this way, and honestly, you deserve so much better. My entitled teacher bullies me all year, blaming me for all her problems, as well as giving me a bad grade in her class, even after I did all my work on time. But my mom wasn't having it, so she stormed back into my teacher's classroom and put this entitled bully of a teacher in her place in a way that I've never seen in my life. Here's what happened. So this happened to me many years ago when I was still in grade school. I took a theater class, and the first semester the class was taught by an elderly, kind, and beautifully positive woman. We will call her Mrs. Smith. That's not her real name. I had an A+ in the class and I enjoyed it. After winter break, I went to class to find a new teacher. Mrs. Smith had health issues and wasn't able to finish the school year. The new teacher was young and tried way too hard to be the cool teacher, if you know what I mean. The first day of class, she said she taught differently. She graded by groups. I was put in a group with 3 other people who I knew wouldn't be doing any of the work. I had always been a shy, quiet, and good kid. I was bullied for being smart. I was a straight A student, and I never received a B until my college years much later. For most of the classes, this new teacher would just talk to us about real life. She would say stuff to us like, life isn't going to be fair or what you expect it to be. Everybody fails. The new teacher said on the first day of class that she believes everybody needs to fail at least once in life. Now, I don't know why, but she looked at me and smiled and said, "Don't you agree?" And I just replied with, "Well, I mean, if they deserve to." Her smile eventually faded and was replaced with a scowl, and she started talking to the class again about how failing is important for character and everyone needs to struggle to learn how to survive. And when she was saying this, I was thinking to myself, we are just a bunch of teenagers in a theater class. What in the world is she on about? I've got my whole life ahead of me to make mistakes. Well, from that moment on, she hated me. She routinely berated me in front of the class. She would say things like, "I bet your teacher's pet all the time." She would then call me a goody two-shoes, and she would blame me for the class not being able to finish a movie we were watching in class. We were watching Stephen King's movie called It, and apparently a student's mom called the principal and said it was giving their kids bad dreams. It wasn't me that did it, but she assumed it was. I just tried to stay in the corner of the class with my head down and out of the line of fire. She even got other kids to pick on me as well. I was fat, so I was an easy target. And when the other kids teased me, she would just laugh. But she wasn't going to break me. I had been bullied all through school. I was used to it, but I just wasn't expecting it to come from an adult that was supposed to be teaching me. Eventually, I survived the class and the new teacher, or at least I thought I did, until I got my report card. Straight A's except for theater. She gave me a C-. I was terrified to show my mom. She expected straight A's from me. My mom is the kindest and most loving woman, but she expected good grades because I was a good student. She picked me up, and the first thing she asked for was my report card. I had never even gotten a B before, so I didn't know how she would react. It wasn't pretty. She asked why I was doing so badly in that class and how I could have such good grades in all the rest of my classes. The thing that hurt me the most was the disappointment in her voice. I began to cry, and I told her that the new teacher didn't like me, and I did all my work, so I just didn't know what was going on. She didn't believe me. She parked the car and made me walk her to my theater class, and I was crying. She did this so she could speak to my new teacher. I sat outside the classroom and I listened through my crying. The new teacher told my mom that she graded in groups, and even though I did my work, my group brought my grade down. Now, I've never heard my mom angry in that way before. She told her that wasn't fair and had some other choice words for the new teacher and then stormed out and we left. My mom ended up speaking to the principal and they made my new teacher hand over all my work with A's. And they reviewed all my other class grades and talked to my other teachers who vouched for me being a good student. My new teacher was forced to change my grades to an A overall. She had to change other students' grades as well, apparently. And from that moment on, my mom was incredible to me. I never saw that teacher at my school ever again, and I never took another theater class ever again as well. That teacher sounds obnoxious. Imagine you're trying to pass this class and just do well in a stupid theater class, and you've got this teacher who's trying to be all philosophical to a bunch of teenagers who literally don't even want to be there. And also, why would she grade the class based on groups? Like, I would be furious if that was me and I did all this hard work and I knew for a fact my group was not going to do any work. Like, that's not fair in the slightest. That really is not fair. But it sounds like the original poster's mom absolutely had their back. Sure, they were angry at first, but once they realized their kid was doing their work, they absolutely were not going to take no for an answer. So hopefully that teacher got fired or something like that, because she was awful to this original poster and she has no business being a teacher if she is going to literally bully her students simply because they said something that she didn't like. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. I walked in on my best friend's girlfriend in the process of cheating, and as a result, this absolutely ruined our friendship group, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So I was having a celebration for my birthday with a few people at my house. I had invited my girlfriend, my best friend, and his girlfriend, and their third roommate. The five of us all are good friends, and we hang out every weekend. And anyways, towards the end of the night, the roommate kept going missing apparently, as in like he was very drunk, wandering around somewhere else, and my buddy's girlfriend kept trying to find him. And in the back of my head, I'm just thinking like, okay, so yeah, it's kind of concerning that they can't find him, but he's also a grown man, and I'm not too concerned. He's also done this in the past, mind you. And on top of that, my buddy's girlfriend insisted on just trying to find him herself, which I did find a little bit odd, but I didn't think much of it. Anyways, at one point, some of us, including me, my girlfriend, and my best friend, were out smoking, but I decided to go and see if everything everything was okay with the roommate. I go to my driveway and I see the roommate and my buddy's girlfriend making out in his car. Now, when I saw this, I was pretty shook. I started panicking and I just walked back into the house. I went straight to my girlfriend who was in the bathroom at the time and I told her what I just saw. I told her that I should probably tell my best friend what just happened, and if I don't, I'm not going to be a good friend. So I did just that, and he was obviously upset. So he walked out to the car and started screaming at both of them and ended up just driving away. Anyways, the whole situation just kind of ruined my birthday for me, and I can't help but feel that I'm now in a weird spot because my girlfriend and his now ex-girlfriend are best friends, and this basically uprooted our entire friend group. And to be honest, part of me wants to tell my girlfriend to not be friends with this lady anymore, but I also feel that's not my place, and I don't really have the right to say who she can and cannot be friends with. What should I do? First off, I want to make it very clear to the original poster that no, you did not break up this friend group. This lady and the roommate, they're the ones that broke up the friend group. They're the ones that did this, and you just happen to be the one to find them in the act. And you know what? You did the right thing. If my friend's girlfriend was cheating on him, I would absolutely want him to know about what was going on. And at your birthday party at that. I mean, how crazy is that? These people seriously couldn't have done this anywhere else. Like, they were literally just out in the open in a car making out as if nothing was wrong. Like, seriously, that is not okay. So you did nothing wrong in this situation. You are not the bad person here, and you didn't cause any of this. You just so happen to be in the right place at the right time to help out your friend deal with his girlfriend that is obviously cheating on him. When it comes to your girlfriend being friends with this ex-girlfriend, there's honestly not a lot you can do about it. I think you have every right to express your opinion and be like, look, this lady ruined our friend group. I really don't like her, and I really don't think that we should be involved in her life anymore. And maybe express it in that way to try and get through to her, but at the end of the day, it is her own decision. And you know what? Your girlfriend should be fully aware of, at this point, what kind of person her best friend is. And that is someone who would actively ruin a relationship. That's not okay, that is really toxic, and overall, this situation is absolutely not your fault. My dad has pressured me my entire life to make me call his new wife my mom, despite the fact that she will never be my mom, and she will only be a stepmom at best. And things have escalated so badly over the years that I seriously don't know what else to do. Here's what happened. So to start things out, my mom passed away when I was 14 years old. I was always closer with her than my dad, so I took it very hard and still missed her every day. My dad moved on extremely quickly, and I'm talking like 1.5 months later, and he was openly dating his current wife. And I personally suspect that he was cheating on my mom. She moved in 4 months after my mom passed away. Then, 9 months after her passing, they announced their engagement on my birthday as one of my gifts. I obviously didn't take it very well. I made a scene, I dumped the cake that they got me, and I walked out. I disappeared for a few days until they were about to put in a missing persons report. I was forced to go back. They tried to get rid of all evidence of my mom, pictures, personal effects, memories, and other things. I kept what I could and I hid some others. They wouldn't let me celebrate her birthday or anything to do with my mother. They tried to force me to call this lady my mom, the person that my dad was dating, but I never did it. They would ignore me when I called her by her normal name. She would introduce herself as my mom, and I would correct her every time. It got to the point that I stopped talking to her unless absolutely necessary, or if I was correcting her in some kind of way. These talks were usually one-word answers. My dad got very angry every time I didn't call her mom, and would instead use her first name, or introduce her as my dad's wife. I only spent 2 weeks not talking to either of them when I was 16 years old because I was ruining their family dynamic. I turned 18 and I left for university and went extremely low contact, and I didn't go back. When I was 21 years old, I got engaged to my fiance. She knows about my relationship with my dad and his wife. She respects it and is on my side. When they found out my dad and his wife had a fit, they didn't know that I was seeing anyone. My dad's wife posted on social media saying she was excited that her son, meaning me, was getting married, as well as a bunch of other things, saying that she can't wait until she becomes a grandparent. I made a short post saying I am not and never will be her son, and she won't be a grandma to any of my future kids. My dad got mad and was saying that I was disrespecting my mother and embarrassing her, and so I asked who he was referring to, because my only mother, my real one, had passed away, and at this point, I lost both of my parents on that day when I was 14. Now that situation was about 3 years ago, and we went back to no contact. My wife is about 8 months pregnant, and they just showed up at my house, even though I never gave them my address. They wanted to talk and meet my wife, but I didn't let them in, and I said said to turn around and go back to where they came from. But apparently they decided they wanted to move to my city and state just to try and be closer and repair the relationship between us. She said that she missed her son and wanted to be a better mom and grandma. But I called them delusional and told them to leave, and I slammed the door. I later found out they bought a house about 5 minutes away from us. This has all been way too much for me, and my therapist wants me to let them in, but I would rather cut all contact. It wouldn't be so bad if they would just stop trying to replace my mom and act like she never existed. I honestly don't know much about my dad's wife. I don't even know if I know who my dad is anymore. My wife is struggling to support me emotionally and doesn't know how to help. How do I convince my dad and my dad's wife that she will never be my mom ever? Before we go any further, the original poster actually has an update to this story. This is what they had to say. So first off, I want to say thank you to everybody who commented, and I want to start off to answer some questions and to clarify a few things. My wife, myself, and our unborn child are doing good overall. My wife is over being pregnant at this point, and our child should be here in the coming weeks. I did find a new therapist, and I called to cancel the rest of my appointments on the books, and he did not take that very well, so I have to put in a complaint. I met with my new one, and I like her a lot better. I feel like I'm actually being heard, and I'm actually getting the help that I needed. I want to make this clear as well that I am 24 years old. My dad's wife is also 38 years old, so she is 14 years older than me. My dad is 52 years old, 14 years older than his wife. So when she entered my life, I was 14 and she was 28. There were also a lot of theories about how my dad might have had something to do with my mom passing, but that is not the case. But I still believe they were together before she passed. I am also investing in a security system, but it will be a few weeks until they can install it. But for now, we have a doorbell cam as well as some cheap cameras around the house. Also, since the post about her being excited about being a grandma and about how my wife and I got engaged, we have both locked down all of our social media. My wife and I are not active on any platforms anymore except for messaging or sharing pictures. Also, when it comes to them finding out about our address, we found out about the leak. It was my brother-in-law. We had a family dinner where we had planned on working on the birthday plan. My brother-in-law insisted on being there, which was odd as he was not a part of it to begin with. While we were waiting for my mother-in-law to get home, I shared what happened between my dad and how it made me and my wife feel. My brother-in-law got visibly uncomfortable when this was brought up. When we saw what was going on and we called him out for it, he denied it, but it was still incredibly obvious. My sister-in-law then called him out and he broke down. He said that he had been talking to them because we need all the family support that we can get, and they should know their grandbaby. This caused an argument, and it ended with my sister-in-law moving out and staying with us. I think it's over between the two of them, and I will never trust him ever again. Our birthing plan has been on lockdown and very secured, and it was made a day later without my brother-in-law, but we have some plans just in case something crazy happens. Everyone who needs to know the plans or the details actually does know what's going on. I've also seen comments of people saying that we should get a protection order, but you know what? It is surprisingly hard to get one where I live. It is heavily dependent on violence or physical contact. Technically, what they have done is not against the law yet. They are perceived as no real danger at this time since there were no real threats made, and they left when I asked them to. They have free will to move wherever they want, whenever they want. Also, since a family member gave another family member my address, it is fair game. In regards to grandparents' rights or whatever that is, it is only when my wife and I have lost custody or are unable to care for them. But my mother-in-law and father-in-law will be taking on that role if that ever does happen, even though it never will. Also, my wife and I are not in a position to move. We just bought our house when interest rates were low, and my in-laws helped with the down payment. It is nothing massive, but it is a house and it's perfect for a starter family. My dad and his wife are also unable to have kids. I don't know from what side made it impossible, so that may be why there's constant pressure from them. I did also write a letter, basically summing up why I want no contact with my dad. I explained to him how I feel about what they did and how his wife is not my mom and she will never be. I also explained that if I feel like giving them a chance, it will be on my terms as well as my family's terms. I specified that my family is me, my wife, and any possible children moving forward. I also requested that they not talk to my wife or myself at any time unless it first goes through a lawyer. I told them straight up that they are not welcome around us at any point, including our house, school, daycare, social gatherings, birthdays, Christmases, barbecues, you name it. I stated that if we are in public, we are strangers. I told them to keep space and act like we don't even exist. And if they break this, they will get a follow-up letter, which will then hopefully lead to some kind of protection order. The letter was quite long, and our lawyer looked it over and my wife and I signed it. Then he signed it, as well as it being notarized. And then we made legal copies of it for our records. My lawyer went with a private delivery service and hand-delivered it to him with a signature of received goods. Plus, there's video evidence as well. As for me, I'm now focused on my wife and my soon-to-be child, and I honestly hope that I'm ready. Your dad is crazy. First off, I absolutely agree with the original poster. There is a very high likelihood that he was cheating on his wife before she passed away. Like, who in their right mind would just straight up be like, okay, I've got another date. 1 month later after my wife passed away, yeah, I'm gonna start dating again. And then 4 months later getting engaged? Like, are you crazy? Also, this lady was 28 years old. Oh my gosh, that is really inappropriate. This guy is 52 years old. What is happening right now? This seriously looks incredibly sketchy, and I don't blame you for saying, yeah, this guy was probably cheating. It also is crazy that your dad and his wife would move to the same city as you just to try and repair the problems in a relationship that they caused. They are literally the reason this relationship fell apart. It's not on the original poster, it's not on anybody else, it's on them. And what an utter act of betrayal from this brother-in-law. To give out their address like that is such a huge betrayal of trust. Like, I would not forgive that guy ever again or trust him ever again if that ever happened to me. So hopefully this can all get figured out and you can find some kind of peace in your life. Because with all things considered, I don't blame you for going no contact with your dad. My boyfriend has plans every weekend with his friends, as well as every single weeknight during the week. But none of those plans ever involve me. And I now feel so hurt and I seriously don't know what to do. So my boyfriend and I have been together for 4 years in October, and we live together with our 4 pets. When we first got together, we would go on dates every Friday. We would go for drives, we would go to the mall, and we would go on other adventures whenever we were together. But this changed after my boyfriend got a new group of friends and suddenly had plans every single weekend and every single weeknight. It's good to have friends and some alone time, and while I'm an introvert and I enjoy my alone time as well, he also enjoys going out, and I respect that and I encourage it. I think it's healthy. However, it's always constant. I would say at least 4 nights a week, if not more, and at least every Saturday, he has plans and will be out forever and then come home and sit on his couch up until he goes to sleep. I feel we do nothing as a couple anymore, and everything that we do is with his friends. We will even go out to have drinks, and then all of his friends will suddenly arrive, and then as always, it's just us and 5 other people. So I even just gave up on that. I've expressed this so many times, and there's times where I will literally just be crying, saying that I feel like I'm single again. And in the end, he will still leave because he says that he just has to go. I'm just at a crossroads here. I support him going out and doing things that he wants to do, but I mean, does it have to be 4 to 5 days a week? I just feel like in his life, I'm the last option if no one else at all wants to hang out. He said, let's plan a trip. Let's go on dates more, as well as several other empty plans, but it just never happens. He says he wants to spend the rest of his life with me, and I love him dearly, but I just feel like I'm single half the time. My friends are taken out and go on trips with their boyfriends and actually get time together, and I feel like I deserve that just as much as they do. Am I overreacting here? What should I do? Your boyfriend is completely out of line. He would rather spend time with his friends out and about every single night as opposed to having any kind of relationship with his girlfriend. And I'm right there with you. It's okay that he spends time with his friends, but it seems like there is literally a complete imbalance between you and his friends. Like, it seems to me that he is not prioritizing his time with you at all. He's not even making this like a 50-50 split or anything like that, which from the sounds of it, you would probably be okay with that. It seems like you want him to have friends and to be involved with a friend group in general. So I can personally totally understand where you're coming from, where you feel jaded and you feel hurt when you're trying to have a night out and suddenly all of his friends show up. Like, what is happening? That's not fair at all. So hopefully some kind of conversation can break through to this guy. It sounds like you've tried a lot. It sounds like you've tried just about everything, but he seriously just doesn't prioritize you. And you know what? In this case, it kind of seems like actions are really speaking louder than words, and you deserve so much more out of a relationship than this kind of dismissive behavior. An entitled Karen tries to blame me for her car breaking down, demanding that I leave my job to go pick up her car, bring it back to our gas station, and fix all of her problems. But after a while, I simply couldn't take her comments any longer. So I blew up on this entitled Karen and told her to get lost, resulting in her trying to get me fired. Here's what happened. Okay, so this goes back to 2003. I'm working a minimum wage job at a very busy gas station in the United Kingdom. I had only been there a few months, but at that point, I knew the ropes of that place, and it was also also very busy. Lines of cars and trucks going down the highway and a line of customers going out the door, and I'm working alone as usual. So the cast of the story includes me, an overworked 17-year-old with a bright future of PTSD and other mental health goodness. Our next person is the entitled Karen, who's just some lady who's missing her butler, but still acts incredibly rude. Anyways, this Karen got out of a taxi and came up to the front of the line past about 20 customers patiently waiting. This entitled Karen had to be about 70 years old, and she's dressed head to toe in black velvet, as well as a fur coat, and is wearing more platinum jewelry than I've ever seen before. She also seemed vaguely familiar, and I didn't put it together until the end. She demands in a very snobby voice that she needs fuel. Imagine Professor McGonagall from Harry Potter, but much fatter. I say to her, "I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to wait your turn." And this is literally said in front of all the customers she jumped in line in front of. This entitled Karen responds to me by saying, "I need fuel in my car collected from down the road." Me and a few customers give her a weird look. I look to her and I say, "If you've broken down, I have the number for a recovery service, and you are more than welcome to use our phone to get that taken care of." I then hand her a card with a number on it, as well as direct her towards the phone in between customers. She just looked at the card and the phone as if I put a dead rat on the counter. She looks at me and says, "Well, why can't you do it?" I respond by saying, "Well, I'm sorry, but I can't. It's very busy today." And this is all while other customers are coming along getting their stuff done. She then looks at me and says, "No, why can't you go retrieve my car?" And at this point, I'm gobsmacked. I say to her, "Ma'am, we are a petrol station. We don't do recovery services." But this Karen doesn't take no for an answer. She actually looks at me and says, "This is nonsense. You will collect my car this instant." Now, at this point, I'm getting very annoyed, and the customers in the store are also getting annoyed. She lets her car run out of fuel, leaves it on a gridlocked highway, gets a taxi to my station, and somehow it's my fault and my responsibility to try and rectify the situation. What is going on? I respond to this entitled Karen and I say, "How am I supposed to do that? I can't close the station. I'm here on my own. I don't own a car or even have a license. I will happily call a recovery company for you, and I can do this when I have a free moment away from the customers. Just please be aware that they will charge a fee and they need payment in cash. There is an ATM outside that you can use." This entitled Karen is now red in the face with anger. She says to me, "Are you stupid? Why should I pay? My car has run out of fuel. You have to deal with it." At this point, I'm trying to keep cool. I'm trying to serve customers, and I'm trying to find an alternative to get her out of the store at this point. I say to her, "In that case, there are fuel cans behind you that you can happily purchase and fill up." The entitled Karen agrees and goes to pick up a 1-gallon can and actually slams it on the counter. She says to me, "Go fill it up now." I just quickly say sorry to the next customer, and I scan the can to try and get her out the door. I say to her, "That'll be roughly 9 pounds altogether." The entitled Karen says, "I'm not paying for that. It is your responsibility to provide fuel, and your customer service is atrocious. I refuse to pay. You will be paying for my fuel, my recovery, and my taxi." I eventually told this entitled Karen that she can then just leave. At this point, the entire line of customers started chewing her out as well, telling her to get out and that we're too busy to deal with this stupid old cow, as they put it. The entitled Karen said, "You'll be hearing from me about this, and I will be having your job for this insolence." And after that, she got back into her taxi and drove off. We did hear back from her about a week later. She had gone to customer complaints, reached the regional manager, and the national HR. She claimed that I was responsible for her car running out of fuel, as well as being abandoned on the highway, including refusing to pay for towing and refueling, as well as humiliating her in front of the other customers. She was also demanding reimbursement and compensation for the poor quality of service. She also demanded a written apology from me, as well as a letter of my resignation. A week after this, my manager pulls me aside. She knew all about it. She heard the story from me and a few of our regular customers as well, and she watched and heard it all on our security cameras. The entitled Karen sounded crazy and looked like she had just come from a funeral. She chalked it up as being emotionally drained, senile, and mentally ill, and said that I shouldn't have to worry about it. My manager even said that she had seen worse in her life. Then she got the letters and phone calls from the head office, and that threw her theory out of the window. She handed me a copy of the response letter that was sent to the Karen, stating that she was barred from all of our company stations nationwide, and she was informed by the company that we are not a charity, and entering one of our stations or approaching our staff will result in the removal by the police. And it was right about then that I realized realized who it was that I was talking to. I read the name of this entitled Karen, and I realized she was one of my old principals from primary school, and she was an absolute jerk even when I was 5 years old, and it looks like she got a lot worse as she got older. That lady was seriously out of line. Who shows up with their car abandoned on the side of the road, jumps in front of everybody in line, and then says, "You, lowly cash worker, you're gonna fill up my car and fix everything." Like, lady, you seriously need help. She actually tried to get you fired and tried to claim that you're the reason that all of this went wrong. People like that drive me crazy. They point to everybody else around them instead of accepting responsibility for some kind of mess up that they caused. There is literally no way that your car getting abandoned on the side of the road is some cashier's fault, because at the end of the day, you're the one that didn't put gas in your car, you idiot. Like, what are you doing? The original poster was also not out of line. They handled it really well, considering the line that they were dealing with. They had 20 customers ahead of them. They were the only ones in the store, and this weird Karen walks up and just butts in line. And it was also really cool to see the other customers basically have this person's back. They all basically collectively decided, no, screw this lady, she needs to go. And the fact that this was an old principal that you dealt with in primary school is like the icing on top of the cake. She was a nightmare then, and she was a nightmare now. And hopefully this experience of getting banned from all of their stores nationwide taught this entitled Karen a valuable lesson. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. A mutual friend of mine demands that I give over my dog for her kids, claiming that they got attached to my dog while I babysat them, and that I'm skilled enough where I could just train a new dog and give them mine. And I've honestly never been more annoyed or offended by somebody's request ever in my life. Here's what happened. Well, I think it's fairly safe to assume I've lost a couple of friends over this, but what happened was not on me. This weekend, a friend of mine asked me to keep an eye on her 2 kids while she and her husband went away for the weekend for some private couple time. Her mother was initially going to watch the kids, but fell through on short notice. She called me at 3 p.m. on Friday to come over in 3 hours, and my friend knew I probably wasn't doing anything anyways, which was both hurtful and incredibly accurate. So I said, sure, I'll help you out. She's got 2 kids, a girl who is 8 and a boy who is 5. They're good kids for the most part. The boy has a little bit of a snitching problem, and the girl has a sharing problem, but it's just 2 days. So I show up Friday after work while my friend gives me the rundown, and her husband tells the kids that they will be punished if they were bad, but the kids were very unimpressed. The parents leave, and it's just me and the kids in the house, and it is immediate pandemonium. The brother snitches on his sister for taking an extra cookie. The sister cries to me that her brother touched her Nintendo Switch, and I make the executive decision that they've got too much energy, and if they are tuckered out, they'll hopefully just chill out. So I asked the kids to track down bathing suits because we're going to my gym, which has a pool and a guest policy. I did let the mom know what we were up to before we left, and I asked if it was okay if I brought my dogs over as well. He's house trained and he is a good dog, and she said that's fine. And you know what? Operation Pool was an absolute success. Once everyone was appropriately tired, including me, we made a pit stop on the way back to their house to grab my dog. He is extremely well behaved and he loves kids, and both kids were immediately all about my dog by the name of Dexter, and Dexter was all about the kids. So I did set up some ground rules for the dog. I said there's no pulling on his fur and he goes wherever he wants. The kids kind of struggle with the notion that the dog is not a toy, and I obviously kept him out of places where he wasn't supposed to go. Miraculously, after the swim and chasing the dog around the house, it left them incredibly tired, and they both fell asleep watching a Disney film on the television. After the movie, I woke the kids up, I walked them off to their bed, and I didn't really make them brush their teeth. And for the record, the son, who is a massive snitch, did decide to throw me under the bus the next morning when his mom called, that no, they did not brush their teeth the night before. I told the kids that if they left their doors open, Dexter might sneak in and give them cuddles. I increased the likelihood of this by sleeping on the couch and not leaving him a spot. He expressed his displeasure with me by running off and going into the boys' room to sleep, which was a great success. Saturday, we went for a hike in the morning. We had a nap and then played ball with the dog and generally just had a pretty chill day. We diffused the sharing issue by explaining to the girl that the dog has feelings and wants just like any person, and that she can't control him in that way. She appeared thoughtful and then immediately started yelling at her brother for hogging the dog again, so at least she wasn't mad at the dog. I successfully heated up the casserole that the mom had left me for dinner, following her carefully laid out instructions, and I admonished the kids to not give my dog people food, and as you could probably guess, I was soundly ignored. I did draw the line at a couple of morsels from each kid, but I did have to put my foot down. Any more than that, and he's gonna have stomach issues, and honestly, nobody wants that. That night, I made made sure the girl got a chance to have the dog by again hogging the couch and also closing the boy's door, since he got a turn already. The girl was incredibly smug, and the boy made me call his mom. The mom wasn't happy that my dog was in her kid's bed, but I reminded her that he doesn't shed and he doesn't smell any bad than the kids already do. And her daughter might burn the house down with us inside of it if she doesn't get a turn, so the mom accepted defeat. Saturday night was again relatively peaceful, though this time toothbrushing absolutely did happen. Early Sunday morning, I got woken up by having my dog step on me, which is a thing that he's really good at, and he was mad at me for not leaving any room, so I just made room. Apparently the girl tried to do something he didn't like, and he noped himself right out of there. She wasn't happy about this, but was appeased by my pain enough to go back to bed. This morning was relatively chill, some more playing with the dog and some team tug of war, and mom and dad got back around during lunchtime and thanked me for keeping their kids in one piece. The kids said bye to my dog, and there were tears, and I just loaded up my stuff and my dog, and I went back home and enjoyed the relative peace and quiet. And I wish this ended there, but you know what? There's a lot more. Maybe an hour after we got home, I get a phone call from a very frazzled sounding mother with kids crying in the background. She says that they need my dog right now. I say to myself, I'm sorry, what? You don't need a dog, you need my dog? So I don't need to come back at all and visit soon. You just want my dog. Apparently the kids got so attached that they won't stop crying about missing the dog, and the mom and her husband don't have time for 2 kids and a dog, and that things were awful. She then tried to guilt trip me into giving them my dog, which guess what? Has absolutely zero effect on me. That is absolutely not gonna happen. I still get text messages to this day about being reasonable and how I could train to have a new dog and they should just have my dog. So what you're saying is 48 hours of free babysitting wasn't enough for you? You want my dog too? Well, that's not gonna happen in this lifetime or any lifetime anytime soon. How entitled and weird can you possibly get? Who in their right mind would be like, oh, thank you so much for babysitting my kids. Hey, while you're at it, can we keep your dog? Like, no, you can't keep my dog. Are you nuts? Your kids are clearly spoiled and they need some kind of discipline in their life. The fact that you're caving this easily to them freaking out is pretty obvious evidence that they are not getting good structure at home and you need to do better as a parent. So if this entitled mother really wants a dog, then it's time to get a dog of your own, because asking that of your babysitter is incredibly inappropriate. My girlfriend has been treating me badly for several months because she is envious about my position in the company, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. So my girlfriend and I work in the same company but in different teams. I had a high position in the company, and a year ago I was promoted to an even higher position. She was also promoted, but not to the extent that she would have liked, and since then she started treating me badly, always annoyed with me, criticizing my work style, making jokes when I write or pronounce something wrong in English, or anything else that I do. The list of times where she mistreated me for no reason is incredibly long. The problem is, at the same time, she had recommended a former coworker who had worked with her previously for a position in her team. Since this guy arrived, she started throwing it in my face how amazing he was, and even said several times that he deserved to be in higher positions than me. Don't get me wrong, this guy is super competent, but I couldn't help but feeling hurt seeing my girlfriend worshiping this colleague while I'm not receiving any kind of congratulations for my promotion. Well, the comments escalated to the point where she started jokingly telling me that several times she has told me she's even dreamed of spending quality time with this guy, if you know what I mean. Now, I know we don't control dreams, but why would she tell me that? At the end of last year, I was severely depressed due to my mother's alcoholism problems, and at that time when I needed her the most, she pushed me down even further. 2 things happened during that time that completely broke me. For starters, I had to do some work that she needed to review because it was a system that her team worked on. She spent the whole week saying she didn't feel like reviewing it, and when she finally did, she did it while complaining about it. However, when she needed to review the work of this coworker, she showed me the review screen and said, "We interact so well in the review system. I love reviewing his work." Another instance is when we had a meeting between our teams to discuss this integration, and she was unnecessarily rude to me in front of our colleagues. Well, soon after that, I had reached my limit, and I said I wanted to break up. She cried a lot, assured me that she had nothing to do with this coworker, and that she didn't even like men, but believed that all of this was the result of her insecurity because she envies my position and recognition in the company. I had been asking her for months to go see a therapist to try and understand why she was so impatient with me, but she never did it. When I decided to break up, she begged me to give her another chance and even started treatment with a therapist. I decided to give her that chance, and now it's been 4 months months, but I can't seem to get over everything that happened. She has really changed a lot and is following the therapy, but every time I see the coworker, I feel very humiliated. I can't understand why she did this to me. I always supported her in everything. I always helped her at work in everything that she asked for. I feel bad because I feel like she's really making an effort and trying to improve, but I hate jealousy games, and I think all of this has left my self-esteem at an all-time low, and that's making me feel awful. Is there any way to overcome this and save our relationship? I'm personally already in therapy, but I'm not able to deal with these feelings. What should I do? Honestly, I'm surprised you put up with this as much as you did. Your partner was literally throwing you under the bus simply because she was jealous about your promotion. Like, honestly, that's super toxic, and I don't blame you for breaking up with her at all. Like, there's no way I would want to put up with that. You've clearly tried to communicate to her that, hey, I don't like the way I'm being treated, and it's only once you retaliate and say, all right, we're done, I'm done with this, only then does she decide, okay, I'll see a therapist, I'll do whatever you say. Like, no, it's a little too late for that personally. So if I was in your shoes and I did let this lady back in my life, I would just be very careful. She's already shown true colors. She has shown that she's an incredibly jealous person, and personally, I think you deserve a lot more than just that in a relationship. My best friend has become an absolute nightmare, but I'm afraid of cutting her off, and I seriously don't know what to do. So to start off, all the names in this story have been changed. So I've been best friends with Natalie for about 6 years now. The relationship started off as well as any other friendship. There were a few ups and downs, but for about the first 3 years, nothing too serious happened. I don't know exactly why I started hating her. We had known each other for 4 years up to this point. She became too overbearing, too passive-aggressive, made too many jokes at my expense. It doesn't help that she was extremely close with a mutual friend that bullied me relentlessly, and she was fully aware of the bullying. Whatever happened, I found myself not looking forward to seeing her. She was tiring me out. Then I made a huge mistake, and I don't think she will ever forgive me for it. I won't get into what I did exactly, because she will know that this story's about us, but rest assured, it was a mess up that I feel extremely bad about. So that's why I'm just confused. Natalie has always been the one who wants this relationship to work out. She's been the one who's urged me to text her more and hang out with her more and be more communicative, even though she still brings up all of my past mistakes. And I mean, even small ones from 6 years ago. She loves gloating about my mess ups while I never mention hers at all. But through the last 3 years, I've liked her less and less. And then everything started snowballing about a year ago. Her mental health got worse, and she has become an absolute nightmare. Don't get me wrong, mental illness does not determine a person's worth, nor does it dictate their personality. It just so happens that these two things coincide in Natalie's case. Since then, she's been treating me like garbage. At times, she is warm and funny, as she's always been in the past, but more often than not, she is cold, sharp, and cruel. She will knock down the things I say with single-word responses or give me dirty looks, and loves to make me feel bad about myself. There are even times where I meet her and she barely says a word to me, even when I attempt to initiate conversations. Sure, everyone has their off days, but when it feels like she doesn't care about me every time I see her, it honestly takes a toll. Also, she devalues my opinion and loves to see my facial expressions when she says something deliberately disparaging, which is all the time. She has made some really rude remarks about my own mental health, and she's also made me question my identity by repeatedly telling me I'm not really the orientation or identity that I identify with. All of this, however, Natalie just plays off as a joke. She will say things like, "Aw, I didn't really mean it," all the while she's just laughing at me. Plus, when I speak to her about some new friends that I made, she is very disparaging towards them. She raises her eyebrows or rolls her eyes whenever I mention them, making jokes or remarks at their expense. They, however, are extremely kind to me, and I genuinely believe they have taught me what friendship truly should be. I just can't stand it anymore. She's noticed a change in me, but since she relies on me so much, I don't have the heart to tell her what's really wrong, so I'm not sure what to make of this. I really didn't want this friendship to end, as even now, we have some great memories together. I'm also terrible at communication, which has kept me from telling her about any of my problems so far, but it's taking a negative toll on my mental health. Even if I did confront her about all of her problems and she vowed to change, I don't think I'm willing to make an effort with her after how she's treated me recently. The damage is already done. So should I cut Natalie off, or should I try to make the relationship work? What should I do? Maybe this is as simple as just finding other friends and going to them. Show her that, you know what, I don't need this kind of animosity in my life, and you don't need someone constantly criticizing you and putting you down while also claiming to be your friend in the same sentence. That's super toxic in my opinion. I would definitely not want to put up with that. So So I think maybe finding new friends and just going to them more often and slowly but surely pushing her out of your life might be the best thing for you. For context, the original poster is 18 years old, and so is their friend who's being awful to them. And I can tell you that you're going to be a lot better off being away from her. She sounds like a classic bully, and this really does seem like a sinking ship that you really cannot save. So do yourself a favor and just find new friends. You don't need this kind of energy in your life, and you don't need anybody pretending to be your friend just so they can turn around and treat you like garbage. My entitled sister-in-law tries to take over my son's birthday for her gender reveal party. She even goes as far as to lie to everyone in the family, claiming that I was canceling my son's birthday party so that she could use that time spot instead. And I've never been more angry with anybody in my life. Here's what happened. So my husband and I have 2 children. They're both boys and their ages 11 and 14. My husband's youngest sister now has 3 children. There's a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old. Now, the year my youngest son was turning 4, he asked for a birthday party. He was not yet in school, so he did not know anyone but family, and there were no children other than his brother that were able to attend. Luckily, his favorite people in the world are his grandparents on his dad's side. Grandma is like a big kid. She's super fun and energetic. She acts like a kid herself, and my boys absolutely adore her. I knew they were very busy, so I asked them for several months in advance if they could attend his birthday party. The party was to be on his birthday, and this is going to be important later. Being the wonderful grandparents that they are, they agreed and requested that time off from their jobs. We also invited all close by family, including my sister-in-law, who is the entitled mother of this story. Months go by, and it's now about a week and a half before my son's big day. I've bought the decorations, I've planned the menu, and I've pumped him up. I even like to sing the final countdown song as I prepare breakfast in the morning. One afternoon, I receive a call from my sister-in-law, who is about to find out the gender of her baby. And so she wants to plan a gender reveal party, but she's called her friends and family and discovered that most work and wouldn't be able to attend without several weeks' notice from their jobs. The only day everyone just so happens to be off is my son's birthday. She says to me, "Would you be willing to move your son's birthday party to another day so I can have my gender reveal party in its place?" Now at this point, it may bear mentioning that she already has 3 baby showers planned and has asked me to make the food out of pocket for one of the showers. Most people being asked to attend her gender reveal party were already attending multiple showers for her. Now I am pretty friendly and I'm pretty passive, but this caught me completely off guard. I tried to gently tell her that my son was looking forward to this, and we've had it planned for several months, which is why everyone planned for the day off for work. She feigned sympathy, but still urged me to please move my son's birthday party to a time that everyone could attend later, and to just let her have this open date for her party for her first baby, since I've already had 2. She then says that my youngest son loves babies, and he would love to go to a party with her too. She goes on to say, he could still come to my party and see everyone that he loves, and then he can do it again when everyone can request time off. Now when she said this, I didn't have time mentally to gather a response, as she just kind of steamrolled over me. So I said to her, okay, if they want to go, I won't make them come to my son's birthday party, but I definitely can't go to yours. We have plans. When she did all this, I was angry. She had pulled this kind of thing with other people before. I have tons of stories in that regard, but she had always really loved my boys and never tried this with me before ever. And if she hadn't done it to this extreme. I didn't know how to react other than to vent to my husband, who, lo and behold, wasn't very surprised at all and said not to worry about it and that their dad would set her straight. And funny enough, I was talking to my husband when I saw my father-in-law calling my phone. I answered the phone and he said that my sister-in-law had told him that I had no problem with her taking over my son's birthday, and I had insisted that she have a party and everyone go to that one instead of my son's birthday party. He said if this was true, that he would attend her party, but he would much rather go to the party of my son's. He had already gotten presents and they were really excited about celebrating a kid that's already here on his big day. When I heard this, I very happily told him that I was never going to cancel his birthday or make him sit through someone else's party on his big day. I mean, he's 4 years old and I've been counting down for him every morning. What kind of monster would I be if I said, no, we're not going to have a party anymore? I said that I had told my sister-in-law that people could go to that party if they preferred it, but I would not be attending. My father-in-law then says that sounds about right. night and ended up telling her that he was going to my son's party since he requested time off for specifically that. And if she wants another party on another day, she would need to give him notice. As a result, she ended up canceling her party and then decided to talk about me behind my back for several years to follow. That sister-in-law is out of her mind if she seriously thought she was going to take that kid's party away. Like, that kid is 4 years old, and if there's anything I've learned in my life, it's that 4-year-olds cannot be negotiated with. They will not take no for an answer, and if you tell them you're doing something, you better go ahead and do it. So taking this kid's birthday party away from him just so this entitled sister-in-law can use it for their dumb kid would have been catastrophic. The possible meltdown that could have happened would have been horrible. So good for you for telling the truth, as well as not caving into your sister-in-law's stupid demands. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. An entitled customer gets furious with me after I don't hang up the phone just to help him right away, and as a result, he storms out of the store and leaves us a horrible online review. Here's what happened. So it was a slow work day. My job is basically a cashier. I greet customers, I answer the phones, and I answer questions, and of course I'm involved with checkout. Before our entitled Kevin of this story so dramatically enters the scene, the phone ends up ringing. I don't have a line of customers at my register, and everyone shopping in the store is still shopping, so I answer the phone and see who it is. Most phone calls are pretty easy, but others are just chatterboxes, and most of our clientele is on the older side, so they aren't exactly speedy talkers either. This one was one of the older chatterboxes type, and I was answering her questions and listening to her go on and on about something or another that had nothing to do with the reasons for her call, and at that moment a wild Kevin appears. Kevin is carrying maybe 8 to 10 $1 paintbrushes and a few cheap baubles. He just stands there quite a distance away from the registers, and I gesture to him which register I'm on, but he responds by saying, "No, I have a question." He projects from where he's standing, and I gesture for him to come over and to ask me, and I did this in a friendly manner. I didn't do it aggressively, but he just stands there. All this while, the lady on the phone is seemingly wrapping up her conversation and about to hang up. The entitled Kevin literally tells me to put her on hold as he wasn't here before I answer the call, so I stuck with my practice of first come first serve, and so with that in mind, I again gestured him over to the register. He waited maybe a minute and a half. The time for the phone call counted the seconds for me, and eventually he just dumped what he was carrying into a bucket in front of my register and walked off in a huff. And literally not even 2 seconds after he huffed and puffed, the call ended, which is really no big surprise there. So I went to pick up his things, being oblivious, thinking that he had just left his wallet in his car or something like that, and I put them on the side to hold just in case he came back. After 10 minutes, I realized he's not coming back. I figured he would just be one of those can't please everyone kind of folks and put his cheap baubles back where they belonged. I ended up telling my manager about it, and he agreed that the dude was being a child about the whole thing. My manager has seen me answer phone calls and check people out at the same time before, whether it's slow or I'm the only cashier on duty and I'm jam-packed with a line. My manager trusts that I know what I'm doing. Otherwise, he wouldn't have me working there in the first place. I know our priorities are customers first, the physical ones, and then those on the phone. But this event just so happened to be the other way around. And it's not that unusual for folks to just come up and put items on the checkout. Most people are pretty understanding of what's going on. In fact, I've had people praise me for handling difficult phone calls, as well as helping people out in the checkout line. Fast forward, and I was checking the online reviews for my job, and out of curiosity, I saw this review from our dear old entitled Kevin. Too polite to move from where he was standing to check out, but not polite enough to not yell just hang up on them, or leave a 1-star review. He said, "I spent 5 minutes with items in my hand at the checkout while the cashier was on the phone checking inventory for an item in other stores. I asked the cashier to ask the person on the phone to hold, but she ignored me and proceeded to explain various store policies about buying stuff on the phone. And after a few minutes, I just gave up and left. Apparently, the cashier hasn't even been properly trained, and they clearly just don't know what they're doing." Now, I don't know about you, but it sounds like he spent 5 minutes with voice to text in his car after all of that happened. Now, if he had to wait those extra spare minutes, he could have gotten one of our store's lovely plastic shopping bags with a number for corporate on the bag. He could have called and complained to them about the issue instead of leaving a scathing 1-star review on the internet where I, an equally petty and less outspoken person, can so eloquently copy and paste it and send it to all my fellow customer service members across the rest of the internet on Reddit and let everyone know how stupid this guy is. No matter how well you were trained at work, brought up at home, taught in school, no matter how hard you try in life to do and be good, there will always be someone unsatisfied with your efforts. Just know you can't please them all. Do your best, be happy, and move on. But if they post about it, then so can you. Yeah, that guy was being really obnoxious. He literally just had to wait, and he would have been helped right then and there. There was no reason to literally just throw your stuff on the cash register and then storm out just to give a fake review. Like, come on, get a life. But I totally agree with what the original poster said. Some people are literally just unhappy, and regardless of how nice you are to them, they will always find some kind of reason just to hate you. My girlfriend says that I'm a terrible human being since I can't pay her back right away for the $75 that I borrowed from her. And now she has blocked me completely on everything and is refusing to contact me unless I pay her back as soon as possible. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So my girlfriend and I got into a bit of an argument yesterday, and I still haven't paid her back. And to keep a long story short, I owe my girlfriend $75. Considering I live almost paycheck to paycheck, it was really nice of her to look out for me. But she kind of just bought me these things and then just told me that I owed her money. I told her I'd pay her back last weekend when I got paid, but I ended up having to drop $1,400 on fixes for my car. If I didn't do this, I wouldn't be able to get to work. I told her that I would be able to pay her back once I had money after my car was taken care of. This ended up getting split between last weekend and this weekend. $700 last week and $700 this week. Given that I make $800 a week, I have been under immense stress, worried about having money to even survive, as well as worrying about how I'm going to pay for rent and my credit card with this expense. The first week she was understanding. However, this week she wasn't. She asked me to pay her back, and I told her that I couldn't do it. I had to drop money on my car again, and I explained to her again I would pay her back when I could. Well, she didn't really give me much wiggle room to work with because she started steamrolling me. She said, "I've been waiting since last week, you absolute jerk. Don't talk to me until you've sent me the money. I'll be blocking your number until then." I literally told you I'm having panic attacks about not having money, and I'm crying because you don't care about my money or yours. You are a terrible person. I was then blocked without being able to give a response. Part of me is saying, well, just block her back. Tell her to get a job if she doesn't want to stress about money, because at the end of the day, I need to put myself first. I honestly feel so used for money. I know I owe her this money, but I haven't had any to give. I used to send her money for things that she needed or wanted since I had this type of disposable income. But with the amount of expenses I've had to drop just over the past couple of months, all of my savings has gotten eaten up, and I am unable to save more than $50 a week. Am I a terrible person, or am I being treated as a personal ATM? What should I do? Your girlfriend is being unreasonable in my opinion. She seriously expects you to find $75 out of nowhere in 1 week? Like, come on. That is completely unfair. And she's gotta know you're trying to repair your car, right? Like, she can actively see that, yeah, you don't have a car at your house, and also you're trying to make this work and you're just as stressed out. Like, this is not okay in the slightest. You've helped her pay off so many things in the past, but the one time, the absolute one time that you even owe her money, she suddenly acts like this is the end of the world, and she is going to have some kind of meltdown or panic attack, which I honestly don't believe in the slightest. I think she's only saying that just to try and get under your skin and make you feel bad. So in my opinion, you're not a bad person. You're clearly trying to make things work, and if your freeloading girlfriend can't understand where you're coming from, then that's on her, not you. My boss demands that I call him after every customer transaction, so I maliciously comply, and as a result, the business starts to go downhill, forcing the owner of the store to retire and eventually sell off his store to someone else. Here's what happened. So to start things out, I'm pretty sure that if I asked a show of hands of how many people had that one manager or boss that was the absolute worst at micromanaging, probably like 80 to 85% of you would raise your hand. Well, this is definitely one of those stories. Anyways, a few years back, I used to work retail at a brick and mortar shop that was owned by a guy that, well, let's just say that if we left him alone, the place would fall apart within minutes. There was myself, 2 other associates, and 2 assistant managers. The owner had no clue how our inventory system worked, let alone our point of sale system, but absolutely insisted that he knew everything about the place inside and out, and even would make veiled threats at you with unemployment whenever things didn't go his way. One day, I called his bluff and I walked out. Not even 30 minutes later, while I was sitting in a nearby park, did he call me back, begging for me to come back and get to work. Now, this know-it-all owner was so convinced of his hype that he insisted and demanded that we call him after every customer transaction, go over what was said so he could tell us that we were wrong, even after selling and setting up a delivery account. Mind you, this is in the Upper West Side of Manhattan, where it's busy for roughly 5 out of the 8 hours during any given shift. So I said, you know what? I will happily maliciously comply and definitely get on his nerves. Despite a line of customers at my register, I had to stop things, pick up the phone, and make the call. All the while, my line of customers, in what would be the typical New York levels of patience, would drop their stuff and just straight up walk out. The ones that stuck around waited up to 10 minutes, and this would happen after every phone call. It got so bad at one point, one of my regulars, whom everyone knows to at least the second degree, grabbed the receiver and proceeded to lay into the owner about how he's losing business because of his stupid policies. The owner dug in his heels though, bless his heart, and insisted that things be done his way. Alright, we can do that. I tried to keep the conversations receiver only, but now it's been upgraded to the speakerphone. Now everyone in the store, and I do mean everyone, can hear how much of a colossal idiot this guy is. Business that once had $5,000 a day in the store dropped just north of $1,000 a day, and our sales with deliveries dropped to about half the amount it usually was. With the online reviews of his place being the most hilarious ones I've ever read in my career in retail, the owner was forced to give up his stupid policy and eventually announcing his retirement a few months later. He ended up selling his store to the assistant manager, and to this day, this is still something that we joke about. Having a manager who is a micromanager is honestly the worst. It is so frustrating. You just want to try and do your work without having somebody breathe down your neck and basically force you to do stuff that's just really dumb. And the example in this story is the worst. I would be so frustrated by that. Every single sale, like seriously, I've got a call after every single purchase. I mean, how did this guy not see that that was a colossal waste of time? Literally, nobody gains anything by this, and he just wanted to be in control of everything going on. Like, if he wanted to see how the transactions were going, I don't know, maybe show up to work for once. I always hated it when I had a manager who tried to run their business from the privacy of their home couch. Like, they're just an armchair manager. They don't do anything. They're at home taking a nap or doing something else, and they claim they're available just a phone call away, but in reality, they're just off doing other stuff. And this guy's no different. If he wanted to know how his business was running, the least he could do is roll up his sleeves and get to work. Because calling after every single transaction all day for 8 hours would seriously make me quit. And there's no way I would ever want to put up with that. My boyfriend owes me about $4,000 that I loaned to him, but claims that he shouldn't have to pay me anything back, and instead, the money I loaned him is in fact an investment that we should be celebrating instead of something that he should pay back. And at this point, I'm so frustrated, and I'm actually considering breaking up with him over this. Here's what happened. So we're in our mid-20s, and we have been dating for a year and a half. Before I met him, I lived extremely frugally, and I built up a savings of about $20,000. Now I have about $4,000 of it left. I don't want to cast the blame on him. I made poor financial decisions in this relationship, and in the span of our relationship, I was laid off from 2 jobs, and I didn't say no to eating out and having other purchases. I am working a low-wage job, and I live in one of the most expensive cities in the world. I moved to his city within a few months of dating, and we got a place together. He quit his job, so I had to cover the first 2 months of rent, as well as the security deposit, which we did not get back. And this is all the way up until he found work. A year later, we moved to a new city for his career aspirations, and again, I had to cover the first 2 months of rent and the security deposit until he found a job. In total, he owes me roughly $4,000 in rent. I thought I was loaning him the money until he got steady enough to pay me back, and every now and then, we'll get into an argument about it. Last night, I once again brought up my concerns about my finances, as well as my low savings that have been depleted. One of the key solutions is for me to get a more higher paying job, which I'm actively looking for, but in the meantime, I told him that I'm no longer living above my means. I need to go back to my frugal lifestyle, which he disagrees with. He doesn't want to scrap and save now, because he believes that in a few years, we'll be in a much better financial situation once our careers take off. I brought up the money that I loaned him, and I asked him if he would sign a repayment agreement. He flipped out at the word loan. He was extremely offended and insisted that I wasn't loaning him money. I was investing in our relationship, and just like an investment, I need to let it mature and grow. I can't expect to get it back all at once. And asking him to sign a contract meant that I didn't trust him or have any faith in our relationship. In addition, he's thinking about proposing soon and wants to join finances. So because we're in this together, he doesn't think that he technically owes me anything. I'm honestly in disbelief, and although I love him, I feel like we are not financially compatible. I assume that covering during his rent was a loan, and I would eventually get it back. Even more so, he said he can't make monthly payments to me because he has a few vacations planned with his friends. And while yes, he has been working hard and he does deserve these vacations, but honestly, I basically feel like I'm funding these trips that I'm just not invited to. I feel trapped. I make about $2,500 a month, and we rent an apartment that's $2,100 a month. If we break up, there is no way I can afford this on my own. I can't get another roommate because it's a one-bedroom, and I have 8 months on this lease. Should I stay for the next 8 months because of our lease? Should I try to talk to the landlord about breaking the lease? Listen, I really love him, and we have so many great memories together, but I think our financial and maturity levels are just too different, and the longer I stay, the more resentment I'll build. What should I do? That last line kind of sold it for me. The longer I stay, the more resentment I'll build up. Like, that's really not a good situation to be in. And honestly, I don't blame you for feeling this way. Your boyfriend said, hey, I'm gonna pay you back. And then when it comes time to actually pay you back, he just completely ignores you and says, nah, I'm not gonna do it. This was an investment. This wasn't a loan. Like, what are you talking about? Of course it was a loan. Your girlfriend literally paid for rent twice. They went out of their way to pay for all this stuff, and you're seriously not only going to act like it's just an investment, but you're also going to have the audacity to never pay her back? Like, no, that's not how this works. For context, both of them are in their 20s, and I can completely understand where the original poster is coming from. Their boyfriend is not mature in the slightest when it comes to money. He doesn't have a good head on his shoulders, and this might be a window into what you'll be dealing with throughout the rest of your relationship. So hopefully there's some kind of solution, whether it's breaking lease and moving into something cheaper, or whatever else it might be for you to find some kind of stability. Because regardless of what your choice is, something has to be done, because this is super inappropriate, and your boyfriend absolutely should be paying you back. My entitled sister-in-law absolutely ruins every contact she has with her family, treating everybody like garbage, as well as being stingy with her money, as well as her time with everybody around her. And after years of putting up with this kind of treatment, everyone in the family turns on her and decides that enough is enough. And as a result, she gets put in her place. Here's what happened. Okay, so buckle up, because I've been holding on to this story for a long time. And when I tell you that this is a hot mess, this is a hot, steaming, bubbling mess of a mess. So my sister-in-law has cut all ties with me and my husband, telling us that she wants nothing to do with us ever again because their mother asked her for $10, and we had the audacity to side with my mother-in-law when my sister-in-law refused. It sounds petty, and you know what? It really is. For context, this story does not occur in the United States. This all happened in the Caribbean. My husband has 3 siblings. His first brother will watch you drown to save some rope. His second brother is the sweetest but a bit naive, and his sister-in-law, oh boy, I don't have anything to compare her to. But I think this story will probably give you a hint as to how bad she really is. It's also important to note that my sister-in-law is the baby of the family and the only girl. She was spoiled rotten before their parents split up, and things only got worse once the separation became permanent. My sister-in-law would play parent against parent and throw her brothers under the bus regularly. My husband and I watched my sister-in-law's behavior get more and more toxic as she grew into an adult, but there is absolutely no talking to my mother-in-law or father-in-law. Both parents felt guilty about the fact that of the siblings, my sister-in-law was the one that grew up in the broken home, so they excused every tantrum, every snarky remark, and every selfish act. Once, when she was 12 years old, my sister-in-law stole a pair of underwear from the dryer. My husband and I lived in the same duplex as my mother-in-law for a while. I actually thought the underwear had been sacrificed to the dryer instead of a sock that cycle, and that was until about a month later. I saw my sister-in-law throw the underwear into our kitchen through the open back door. When I went over to their apartment to ask my sister-in-law why she stole the underwear, my mother-in-law got upset at me and told my husband to make me apologize to the sister-in-law, as she thought I was accusing her of something that she didn't do, even though I saw her do it with my own eyes. My sister-in-law had the family wrapped around her little finger. Fast forward to 2020, and all the siblings were in their early to late 20s. The first brother and the second brother, as well as the sister-in-law, decided to remain living with the mother-in-law because she only had to pay $200 each month for rent, as well as utilities and groceries. My mother-in-law still felt guilty about breaking up the family, so she sacrificed her freedom and needs to take responsibility for more than half of the monthly expenses, while her kids would just party. And I mean, they literally partied all the time. One summer, my mother-in-law literally couldn't even afford shoes for work, but my sister-in-law went on a week's vacation abroad. But something else happened in 2020, right? Well, enter the pandemic. My mother-in-law was laid off permanently from her job, so she looked to her adult adult children for financial support until she could find another job. I emphasize adult because at some point in our lives, children will have to help their parents. We just had to start a bit earlier, but it wasn't going to be for the rest of the mother-in-law's life just yet. The 4 siblings just had to hold down the fort until the mother-in-law found a new job. It was honestly simple. Well, the first brother wasn't pleased, but he's reasonable once you get him to sit down and listen to some sense. The second brother also just rolled with the punches. But when it comes to the sister-in-law, after 5 months, she moved out to live with her boyfriend without any warning. All my sister-in-law said as she packed her things was that she was too young to take care of her mom and she has her own life to live. Never mind her 2 brothers and my husband all chipping in equally. Apparently, my sister-in-law had been carrying the load all by herself, and she had just had enough. She was so tired that she left her dog with my mother-in-law to take care of it with no money. We were all left speechless. Not only had she been living with my mother-in-law for almost 2 years, paying for practically nothing, but my mother-in-law also called in a favor with a friend to get the sister-in-law a job right out of high school, something that she didn't even apply for. What's worse is that the mom, with the help of me and my husband, bought my sister-in-law a car with no expectation of ever being repaid. And you better believe that she never offered to pay us back either. Without my mother-in-law's help, my sister-in-law would have done nothing, but she left my mother-in-law up a creek without a paddle, and my mother-in-law ended up losing her apartment. While my husband and his family have learned to take my sister-in-law's awful behavior, her boyfriend was no such sucker. My sister-in-law's boyfriend dumped her after a year. He's an absolute saint. I'm surprised he even lasted that long, and he told her to scram. And guess who she came crawling back to? That's right, her mom. And she took her back in without any kind of complaint. It was disgusting. Because the sister-in-law had abandoned the family, brother 1 had moved in with his girlfriend, and brother 2 had been forced to find an apartment and take the mother-in-law in. Yet there the sister was, sleeping on brother 2's couch. But I'm only the daughter-in-law. I can't tell a mother how to handle her child. I tell my husband my thoughts, of course, but he is such a softie. He and his mom helped his sister find her own apartment, since the second brother couldn't accommodate his sister in the long term. And when she gets evicted after a year for being a brat to her landlord all the time, my husband's mother, as well as him, helped my sister-in-law find another apartment. I even gave her $700 from my personal savings so that she can pay the deposit on the place. And now we're finally getting to the real story I want to tell. So we loaned my sister-in-law the $700 in the summer of 2022, with the expectation that she'd pay me back at least $100 a month. The operative word here was expectation, but the reality was that my sister-in-law didn't pay us back at all. Every month she had an excuse for my husband as to why she couldn't pay us in increments. She would say stuff like, "Oh, I need to buy a new car battery. I had to go to the doctor and it was so expensive." In fact, she was so dumb about it that she used the battery excuse twice in a row without realizing it. I had already resigned myself to the cold reality that I will never get that $700 back ever. We're not well off by any means, my husband and I, but we're not stingy. If the family needs help, we help out, but rarely do we receive any thanks or compensation. But I've grown used to it, so when my sister-in-law dodged out of paying us back, I didn't make a fuss. Yes, I knew she was spending money on absolute garbage every week, as well as $20 lunches every day that she would flaunt in front of my mother-in-law all the time. But honestly, what could I do? I was more upset that my sister-in-law would actually leave work every day to eat her $20 sushi bento box at my mother-in-law's place without ever offering my mother-in-law a bite, let alone a plate to eat of her own. But this is not about the $700 that I loaned her. No, this is about literally $10, and it was a debacle. My mother-in-law was still living with brother 2, and brother 2 was getting tired. See, even though the 3 brothers were equally supporting their mother until she got her life together, the second brother had to live with her. That meant his social and romantic life had to come to a halt. Not to mention he was responsible for his mother's pets and his sister's dog. The second brother had the added pressure of paying for extra utility use and the responsibility of transporting his mother and the pets all around the place. Notice I never said anything about his sister helping out. Well, that's because in his sister's mind, she provided a different kind of support. Every purple moon, my sister-in-law would let her mother crash on her couch. No, she didn't let her mother live with her. She essentially invited her mother over for a sleepover once in a while. Then the next day, my sister-in-law would ship her mother back to second brother's place. Never mind the fact that her brother was already taking care of her stupid dog. Never mind that the brother already supported his mother financially and kept a roof over her head. But the sad thing thing is that my mother-in-law adored the sleepovers with her daughter. She looked forward to the mother-daughter time, even though we all knew that time was spent at home on the couch watching Netflix. And the second brother wasn't pleased with the favoritism. Anyways, my mother-in-law was at my sister-in-law's apartment for one of those rare sleepovers, and my mother-in-law was strapped for cash. She needed toothpaste and dog food for the critters. So my mother-in-law asked my sister-in-law for $10, and my husband and I found out about a half hour later because my husband got this phone call. The sister-in-law started off by saying to my husband, "Something has gotta give with mom." My husband responded by saying, "What? Is mom being stubborn about something?" His sister then said, "No, I just can't deal with her asking for money anymore." So my husband responded by saying, "Okay, first of all, that's not what that expression means. Secondly, what do you mean? You don't support mom financially at all. Your brothers are the ones doing all of that." She then says, "Excuse me, I do a lot for mom, okay?" My husband then says, Okay, whatever you say. What happened?" His sister proceeds to tell him about the $10 that she requested. He puts his phone on speaker so I can hear this utter rubbish. The sister then says, "Honestly, I'm done. I can't deal with this anymore. Mom's gonna break me." My husband then says, "Really? $10 is gonna break you?" His sister doesn't take too kindly to this retort, so she proceeds to list the following excuses as to why she doesn't have $10 to give to her mother. "Listen, I can't do it because I have a car payment." My husband then chimes in and says, "No, you don't. We helped mom buy the car for you in full." She then tried to claim that she has car insurance to pay every month, but my husband kindly reminded her that it's an annual fee. "Well, I have utilities to pay." But my husband then said as well, "No, you don't. Your rent is all inclusive." "Well, not Netflix. That's not all inclusive. I had to pay my Netflix bill, you know." And when she said that, I was so blown away. "You had to pay your Netflix bill? Are you serious? That's your excuse?" At this point, my husband has had enough, but he knows his sister-in-law by now. If he rails on her like he wants to, she'll shut down. So being a good big brother, he offers advice instead. He says to her, "Okay, it seems like you're having trouble budgeting your money. Mom isn't wrong to ask for $10 though." She then tries to chime in that she needs gas for her car, but my husband continues, "Listen, I get it. You don't have $10, but the issue is that you never seem to have any money when family needs you, but you seem to always be able to find money for frivolous things like buying bento boxes as well as all this other stuff." This really upsets my sister-in-law because she says, "What I do with my money is my business," and she begins to raise her voice, but my husband says, "Listen, calm down. I'm just saying that you need to manage your money better. So how much is your weekly salary?" And eventually, after some back and forth, she finally admits that it's $450. My husband pulls out the old Excel budget file that we've been using for years, and he sets up a budget for his sister. Then he asks her how much money she has left for the coming week, but she claims that she doesn't have enough to give $10 to her mom. And after my husband tells her to please stop being belligerent, this was the last straw that broke her back. My sister-in-law pops off. She won't stand for this treatment. My husband has no right to make her feel so bad for not giving $10 away. If my sister-in-law says she doesn't have $10, well, she doesn't have $10. Why is everyone always being so mean to her? Why is everyone always attacking me? And this is all after all my sister-in-law supposedly does for her mother. She thinks that no one respects her. My sister-in-law lets my mother-in-law sleep on her couch, and my sister-in-law lets her mother use her Netflix. My husband responds by saying, "Oh, bravo. You let mom sleep on your couch and soak up the internet your landlord pays for. Thank you so much. Mom doesn't have to sleep on the street tonight." His sister went off. She said, "You know what? Maybe she should. I'm not the mother. I have my own money and my own life to live. If I want to buy sushi every day for lunch, I should be able to." My husband responded back by saying, "Yeah, you can afford to eat sushi every day, but you haven't even paid my wife back a single cent of the $700 that she loaned you in the summer for the roof over your head." My sister-in-law then said some words that are not favorable and went off on this tangent, basically saying that she is done with this family. And then after that, she hangs up. People, within 2 minutes, I get a notification from my bank. Remember how my sister-in-law had so many expenses and couldn't afford to pay us back that $700? Remember how she had so many bills that month that she simply couldn't give my mother-in-law $10? Well, my sister-in-law sent me the full $700. She had it the entire time. She simply decided for months that she wasn't going to rush to pay it back. She probably thought that she'd never have to pay it back at all, but that's not even the worst of it. My husband's mother calls and she wants to know what happened. My sister-in-law called her a few minutes before to tell her that she transferred $50 into her account, and that was the last $50 she was ever going to get from her daughter. My sister-in-law then told her mom to have a nice life and to never contact her again. Now, of course, my husband is furious. The scheming brat had been cheating all of us. She'd taken the entire family for a ride. He tries to call his sister back to reprimand her for being so evil to their mother, but guess what? My sister-in-law has my husband blocked everywhere. My mother-in-law and husband talk about the situation, and after all of this, my husband is still concerned about my sister-in-law's well-being. My husband tells his mother about the budget that he'd worked out for his sister to try and help her. If she's only making $450 a week, then his sister needs to be more careful with her money. His mom then chimes in and says, $450? She doesn't make $450 a week. She makes $650. People, I literally fell on the floor. That entitled brat. My sister-in-law literally lied to my husband about her weekly salary just to try and get out of paying my mother-in-law $10. At this point, my mother-in-law realizes that her daughter doesn't care about anyone but herself. And it really hurts because this is her only daughter. And she agrees with my husband that this behavior cannot be accepted. My husband makes a pact with my mother-in-law to go no contact with her since she believes that she doesn't need to be with her family. So then tell me why the second brother calls us a week later to tell us that my mother-in-law is babysitting her daughter's new dog. Yes, this stupid lady has a new dog, not the dog that the second brother is taking care of. My sister-in-law got a new dog, and the moment my mother-in-law saw my sister's name on the phone screen, she took the call. This was about 4 months ago now, and my sister-in-law and her mother seem to be right as rain with each other, even though this nasty brat said that her mother should sleep on the street. Now, as for us, my sister-in-law still has my husband blocked on all platforms. I guess we are the bad guys after all, but how dare we call out my sister-in-law on all her garbage, especially after she refused to give $10 to her mother. The original poster actually has an update to this story before we go any further. This is what they had to say. So it's been a while since things went down with my sister-in-law, who cut contact with me and my husband because we thought she was being unreasonable and selfish towards her mother. Apparently, after my sister-in-law reconnected with her mother after saying all those awful things, they both started hatching a plan to move in together. They just had to wait until a lease would end in June. Well, April came around and the second brother was anxious for the news. He wants his space back to himself after almost 2 years of housing his mother. He wants to vape and drink a glass of whiskey without his mother nagging him. He wants to bring a girl over to wine and dine. Basically, he kinda wants his mom to move out. Well, I guess his mother asked his sister for that answer, and the sister just blew up. First, she called her brother back and told him to keep his nose out of her business and proceeded to block him as well on all platforms. So if you're keeping score, that's 2 brothers that have been completely blocked out. A week later, this entitled brat called her mother and said that her mother was too toxic to have in her life. And not only will she no longer be moving back in with her mom, but the sister is going no contact with everyone. And this caused a lot of turmoil for the mother. But we just rolled our eyes because we honestly really did see that coming. Then, just this Saturday, the second brother who got blocked got a notification from his bank. Someone had transferred $50 to his account. He was confused and decided to wait to see who sent it. Not an hour later, he got a call from an unknown number and it was his sister. Apparently, his sister bummed some money from her father, but the easiest and quickest way to get her money was to send it to her second brother. So because every other person in the world is a side character in this lady's personal soap opera, she decided to push her own narrative forward. So she told her father to send the money to her brother without asking the second brother for any permission. She then unblocked her second brother only long enough to command him to withdraw the money as soon as possible so that she can swing by his apartment to pick it up. But the second brother just burst out laughing. He didn't even have the breath to tell this lady to get lost. He just laughed and hung up the phone. The second brother called my husband, and since the father didn't even wish either guy happy birthday this year, the brothers decided to use the $50 as a gift from their deadbeat father to buy drinks for a shindig that they planned on having for their uncle who came in on Friday from Europe. The party was Friday, and honestly, we had a good time. My husband came home laughing because apparently his sister really needed that $50 because she hounded and bothered her other brother nonstop. Finally, he relented and told her that she could come by and get the money at about 12 o'clock, which was 2 hours before the party was to start. He did it to avoid inviting her to the party, but also to avoid hurting her feelings. However, his stupid sister does things on her own time, so she arrived right at the height of the party. People were laughing, they were grilling and having a merry time without her. And of course, the uncle felt bad for this sister, especially because he didn't know the situation. He asked her to stay and grab a plate, but she just said, "Oh no, I have other places to be," and then huffed off to her car and sped away in a dramatic fashion, a cloud of dust behind her and all. My husband says for a good hour, everyone talked about what a stink that woman was and how sorry they were that the brothers had to deal with such a sour sister all the time. But better yet, the first brother got a message soon after, and she wanted to know if the second brother and her mom had invited him and my husband to the party. And when the first brother had said yes, the sister literally sent a voice note ranting about how much she hates her brother, while also saying that she hates her mom, crying and screaming about how nobody appreciates her and how everybody treats her like a dog. But in that same breath, she simply doesn't care about any of us, and she just hates all of us. But please, pray tell, how could she expect anyone to invite her to anything if she cuts contact with everybody? So overall, karma is really sweet. This entitled sister really had it coming, and this was all because of her own doing. Let's just all take a breath and really take in what just happened. This entitled sister-in-law seriously is entitled. Like, she did everything she could to try and get her way. She would scam people out of money. She would avoid paying for things. She was stingy with her money. She worked every angle to get everything she ever wanted, and it was never enough. From the apartment to the car, literally everything was handed to her. She is so spoiled, it's not even funny. She will always ask for money and take it happily when it's handed out to her, but she will never give it out to anybody else. Like, what is wrong with this lady? This is not how family treats each other. This is not a good family member at all. Like, I understand that there's different cultures and stuff like that, but this behavior is so unacceptable. She should seriously be ashamed of herself. Like, honestly, what is wrong with her? And you can tell that she does this stuff all for attention. She pushes people away because she's like, "I'm gonna cut off contact with you," just so she can try and feel like the victim. Like, really? You're just being an idiot. You're pushing people away who clearly have some kind of connection with you. It's amazing to me that the brothers and the mom all have this like sense of obligation to try and help her out. Even though she's being a complete knucklehead, they still say, okay, let's try and bring her back in and try and help her out. Let's try and be reasonable. Let's set up some kind of budget. Let's do something to help her. But she keeps pushing people away and treating people like garbage. Literally, the entirety of her mess is her own fault. Everybody around her has tried so hard to help her, but she just keeps messing it up for herself and everybody else around her. So if I was in the original poster's shoes and I had any kind of say over this situation, I would honestly just say good riddance. She does not care about anyone but herself. She sounds incredibly entitled, and these are literally the consequences of her own actions. So I would not feel bad about this in the slightest, and honestly, she had what was coming to her. My entitled manager changes my job, claiming that my job was now to stay at my desk, look pretty, and just make sure I keep people happy. And as a result, I no longer help out at the warehouse I work at, and we fall behind in a serious way. And I've never been happier to maliciously comply to any kind of order at work in my life. Here's what happened. So for the sake of clarity, I'm going to say I work in an industry which is similar to warehousing. It is the same logic in the grand scheme of things. In my branch and several surrounding branches, there are only 2 staff members to keep the place running, so we all just wear casual uniforms, just a polo shirt and appropriate pants and footwear. I mainly do administration work, and I have a team member who works in the back end of things, but I'm capable and willing to jump outside when required of me. Some examples of me needing to work in the back would be if we have a huge rush, or if I need to send my teammate to help at another branch or out on the road to collect stock, and I have to fill in for him while he's gone. It's a pretty good setup because working outside really breaks up the monotony of being stuck at a desk all day, and it's easy enough to do both parts of the job when I need to. Some genius in the head office decided he wanted to change the uniform for any and all administration staff to something a little more corporate and dressy, and I can only describe this uniform as a 3-piece suit made with the heaviest fabrics known to man. Suddenly, I've gone from wearing a polo shirt, which is comfortable and easy to move around in, to wearing a white long-sleeve business shirt with a vest, as well as a jacket, complete with a shirt, stockings, and a slight heel. I straight up looked like a flight attendant working in a warehouse, and I can barely lift my arms high enough to hold my steering wheel on the drive to work. It was a poorly designed uniform, and I was so incredibly uncomfortable wearing it. And you know what? I was very quick to voice my anger. I first mentioned how it was unfair and borderline cruel to expect staff to wear such a thick and layered uniform when we live in Australia, particularly in a place well known for our consistently high temperatures and the harsh sunlight. I then asked how I would be expected to leave the desk to operate machinery and do any kind of heavy lifting in a suit, a skirt, and some heels. I was met with a promise that anyone working in administration and wearing a corporate uniform would not have to leave their desk to do any back-end work at all. I raised another concern, stating that we did not have enough staff for them to make this particular promise and still maintain our quality of work and hit all of our deadlines. And I was once again met with a strong guarantee that I would not have to do any physical labor in my day-to-day operations. But instead, they said something to me that I honestly never thought I would hear. They told me that I was ordered to sit at the desk and look pretty for clients and never move from there at all. So I decided right then and there I would get some revenge and I would maliciously comply. So from that point onwards, I followed their instructions. I never left my desk. There would suddenly be long wait times for orders and fulfillments because my team member was on the road on a job and there was no one on site to continue his work until he got back. If my team member called in sick, I would spend the day pushing back deadlines with clients, which affected our targets and our reputation. Funnily enough, my teammate only started getting sick because I had to have the office aircon on freezing temperatures just so I wouldn't get some kind of heat stroke at my desk. I was honest with clients who had complaints, and I explained to them that I would usually step in to help and make sure that their needs were met, but was specifically instructed to not do that anymore, and then redirected their complaints through to the customer service in the head office. After a few months of this, I was invited to a meeting with 3 of my direct managers, as well as the human resources representative. They were clearly upset about the drop in productivity and the amount of complaints that we were receiving. I let them all say their piece before reminding them that I raised these concerns to them months ago, and I was merely following instructions given to me, which were adamantly clear that I was to take care of admin work at my desk, look pretty, and do nothing else. I let them know my hands were tied, so all I could do was look pretty and placate clients when we inevitably couldn't meet their needs as promised. I suggested hiring more warehouse staff to fill in the gaps left by the administration staff, who were now chained to their desk by their uniform and unable to ease the pressure of the workload like we used to. And at that point, I could see that that comment definitely hit them right where I wanted it to, and they simply couldn't argue with me for following their instructions. So eventually, I was told that they would get back to me on a solution moving forward. Well, here I am at work 2 weeks later, writing this out while wearing my old polo shirt uniform. I was fully prepared to find another job if their solution wasn't reasonable, and maybe I still will look to leave this place. But for now, I'll happily take this win. The management in this company are awful. They seriously decided, oh, you're just gonna have to sit there and look pretty. Not only is that an awful thing to say to somebody, but it's also incredibly demeaning, and it completely ignores this lady's expertise. She literally is cross-trained to work in the warehouse as well as handle all the administration stuff. She is not some ordinary secretary who's just taking phone calls. She is literally doing it all. And the fact that they wanted to try and put her at that desk and say, don't move from the desk, this is all you can do, is really, really toxic in my opinion. And if I was in this lady's shoes, you better believe I would be looking for another job. There's no way I would want to stay at an organization like that, who is clearly not going to take me seriously, who can, at the drop of a hat, tell me that I just need to sit there and look pretty. Like, no, maybe if you had a proper staff, I wouldn't have to forcefully cross-train just to do all this other work so we can still meet our deadlines and our targeted demographics. Because with how skilled the original poster definitely seems like they are, they do not deserve this kind of treatment in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked down below in the description. An entitled Karen keeps trying to use the bathroom in our building despite the fact that she's not allowed to do it, and we only offered it to her as an emergency option if she needed it. And this is so obnoxious, and we are being disrupted so much that we seriously don't know what to do. So I work at a company that some people, myself included, come in early to prep their work, and the janitorial staff are cleaning and prepping for the day. It's a huge place, and this particular part of the company is empty, except for me and a single custodian. There is a school crossing close enough that people who are there to pick up their kids typically park in the lot and sit inside their cars until they see their kids coming. A few weeks ago, our custodian by the name of Carly, that's not her real name, is putting things in the trash outside and sees the new crossing guard by the name of Brittany, that's also not their real name, who's usually with her husband but was by herself this time. Carly tells Brittany that if there's an emergency of some kind, she should ring the delivery doorbell and Carly would probably hear it, and Brittany agrees. It should be noted that while I'm in the same section as Carly in my my catacomb office area, I don't hear the bell ring at all. Fast forward to the start of the next day, and Brittany rings the doorbell. Because Carly is busy working and doesn't hear it right away, because she is far enough away in this big building, Brittany rings the bell multiple times. Carly is moving around and finally heard it, then starts running to the back door to let Brittany in, who at this point only had to use the bathroom. Now Carly is frustrated because she thought it was an A-class emergency, but relents out of human kindness and says sure, use the bathroom I guess. It should be noted that Brittany is a known person in the area for being kind of trashy by previous clueless Karen-type actions that she's taken in the community, among other things. Because people know who she is, they also know that she lives 2 blocks away from where she's crossing at. So it's literally a 3-minute drive here and a 30-minute crossing window and a 3-minute drive home. The next morning, Carly is cleaning by a window, but far enough away from the delivery area, and is jolted from a bang on the tall windows to see Brittany standing on her toes, pounding on the glass, looking in and screaming that she needs to use the bathroom again. Now, Carly is incredibly frustrated, but motions to the back and just lets her in. Carly is embarrassed and frustrated and flustered and tells Brittany sorry. She's cleaning and she can't always hear the bell where she's at, hopefully giving her some kind of hint that, you know what, she should probably just go home because she lives like right by there. But Brittany is annoyed and said that she nearly went to the bathroom in her pants, if you know what I mean. So she ran off and went to the bathroom. She doesn't even say thank you. And at this point, we all recognize that there was a pattern. So for the next week, Brittany rings the bell every morning to use the bathroom. And not just one ring, mind you, it's several rings, followed by a 10 to 15 second pause and several more if Carly isn't fast enough. It's come to the point where Carly is really frustrated because she's actually doing a job and she's usually not 15 to 30 seconds away from the door, so she has to hustle over there just to let Brittany in. And at this point, Carly already knows who Brittany is. She knows where she lives, and she's wondering why she doesn't just use the bathroom at her house before she leaves. She's finding it hard to believe that Brittany has any kind of pressing medical issue, that she can't go without 30 minutes of using a toilet just to do the single job that she's employed at. Monday comes and Carly tells me all that was going on. Now, Carly is a hardworking person. She's very honest, and it's frustrating that her kindness was being taken advantage of. She says that she doesn't want to answer the bell anymore, and she really doesn't know what to do. I told her we are not obligated to let Brittany use the bathroom. She has obviously overused an emergency tool available to her, and we'd probably get in trouble for letting non-employees in on a daily basis, despite the minimal security risk. I offered to go talk to Brittany myself, but Carly felt bad and asked me not to, but said that she just wasn't going to answer the door anymore and just pretend like she couldn't hear, and maybe she'd finally get the hint. Apparently, the bell rang several times in succession, and Carly absolutely heard it, but the call went unanswered. Later in the day, as school was let out, Brittany decided to make up for lost time and started ringing the bell to be let in. And this is while we were full of employees. A third employee who's close to the door, who is friends with Carly, had heard the entire story up to this point. She opens the door, tells Brittany this isn't her personal toilet, and that she's not to ring that bell anymore, and that she needs to figure out her own bathroom solution. The next morning, Carly is outside taking out the trash, and Brittany awkwardly tells Carly that her coworker yelled at her. Carly says, yeah, I heard that, and pauses to stare at Brittany to see if there's anything else Brittany was planning to add to the conversation. And upon seeing nothing but an awkward stare back, she goes back inside and continues to do her job. It has now been 2 days, and Brittany still hasn't rung the bell since, and hopefully it stays that way. Honestly, I hate people like this so much. Brittany was so far out of line. She was using something that was clearly only meant for an emergency, just as her personal spot to go use the bathroom. Like, come on, that's so ignorant. Carly was clearly just trying to do the right thing, and she was trying to help somebody out and be nice. She didn't have to tell this crossing guard that, hey, you can come and use our building if something goes wrong. She could have just minded her own business and said, I'm not helping anybody. But she was literally just trying to be nice to this crossing guard, only for them to then completely wear out their welcome. Like, how do you not catch on that this is obnoxious? But at least Carly had a coworker who was more than willing to put this lady in her place. She did not mince words in the slightest. And I think in most cases, for people like this, who like to overstay their welcome and are completely oblivious to any kind of social clues, being completely transparent and honest with them might be the only way to get them to stop. My friend constantly makes unfunny jokes that really hurt and offend me. And anytime I try to say something about it, he claims that I'm just easily offended and I just need to learn how to take a joke. And things only seem to be getting worse and worse, and I seriously don't know what to do. So my friend and I have known each other for a little over a year, and we've been getting along really well until recently. A series series of incidents has led me to reevaluate whether he has a place in my life anymore. And the first incident started in the first week of April, where he randomly sent me this message. He said, "I am so sorry to be doing this by text message because I'm not strong enough to do it in person. I like you a lot. Knowing you has been comparable to sitting next to a random person in a roller coaster, getting to know them really well during the ride, and now I feel like we're at the end of the ride. I have to step off from the ride. I'm a grown-up with grown-up problems, and I think we should go to different rides for different people." Now, I don't watch too much TV. I watch a handful of shows very infrequently, and he knows pretty much all of what I watch. I was extremely confused and upset when I received this message, and I was stunned into silence because I have lost a friend before after hearing something similar, so I naturally assumed that the same thing was happening right now. I didn't reply to this message. I immediately called my best friend because I was emotional and having a hard time breathing. We spoke for some time and I took a nap, and when I woke up, he had sent me a long message about how he would be busier at work due to a role change, and that what he had sent me was a joke. Specifically, it was a bit from Rick and Morty. Now, I have never watched this show, and he knows this. I told him that his sense of humor was very cruel, and he started arguing with me about how he was just pulling my leg, and if it bothered me so much, I should have messaged him immediately, instead of, as he put it, letting him simmer until I thought he had suffered enough. According to him, I should have realized that he was joking because everything in his message was off character. He followed this up with a long rant about how no one in real life would say that I'm a grown-up with grown-up problems, how nothing in his above message was in line with how he usually spoke, and how the only reactions warranted to that message were to say either that is hilarious or what is happening, and that this is akin to a man telling his wife of 50 years that he was leaving her for a hot chick he met online. So essentially, not something that's likely gonna happen. The rest of his rant was about how he couldn't focus on that day at work, and this was all because of my lack of response, and how he was really worried that I had misunderstood. He then said the following: "I brushed off everything I said and decided to focus on and pick apart all the stuff around it. But honestly, I think you can't say something so tone deaf and out of place, especially over text message, and expect the other person to not only understand the context, but find it funny simply because you call it a joke." The second incident was a day after this. He bought me a subscription to the self-authoring suite without asking me if I was interested, and when I brought it up, he said to me, "I want you to commit to this. I don't care if you think I'm pushing you into something weird, just tell me that you'll do it. Maybe not tomorrow, but take your time and just do it. You are going to be a careless idiot forever otherwise. I want to hear you say that you'll do it. I paid money for it. I could have just shut up and bought the program that didn't allow me to send it to anyone else, but I bought this one because I thought you could do it too." But honestly, this was unsolicited advice. I never asked for his help, and for him to thrust it on me and act like he was doing me a favor, it was honestly not nice. The third incident might seem a little trivial, but it kind of reinforces the idea that he doesn't have a functional sense of humor. So I am home for a few weeks, and I bought him a specific food item from my hometown that he had asked for, and I managed to send it back with a friend by the name of Jane, that's not her real name, that was visiting me from the city that I usually live in. Jane was supposed to meet at the railway station and texted him just before her train arrived. Jane introduced herself as my friend and said that she would be there in some time, as well as where he was supposed to meet her. He texted back saying he didn't know me and that Jane had the wrong number. Jane called me and asked me what to do, so I called my friend up and I asked him why he said that, but he just said, "It was a joke, come on," and the conversation ended right there. He texted my friend immediately asking where you were getting down exactly, to which Jane rightfully said, "I think you have the wrong number." He texted her an apology and they met. She gave him the item and that was it. Honestly, that was not a joke. More importantly, Jane is a complete stranger to him, and she did him a courtesy by lugging his item with her all the way. How do you joke with someone that you've never met about something that isn't funny? In retaliation, I blocked his number, and I did that as a joke for about 2 days. He tried texting me every day until I responded on Discord. When I told him it was just a joke, he didn't find it funny and says he was very upset. He said I was being rude. I said that I was just making jokes in the same vein that he does. He then said, "It's never on you if you don't get it, and it's always on me that you don't. How does that work?" Which is honestly bonkers to me. So this really begs the question, are the above reasons enough for me to consider taking a break from this friendship? I really don't want to explain my perspective to him each time, especially when he refuses to listen and keeps asserting that he is the victim, as well as constantly saying that everyone he knows would have found his jokes funny. I'm honestly at a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. This does not sound like a friend in the slightest. This sounds like a bully who is clearly stringing you along, and he's doing it because he knows he can get away with it. Like, this guy sounds awful, and I don't know why you're putting up with this. This isn't grounds just to take a break from the friendship. This is grounds to be like, you know what? I don't want to be your friend anymore. You keep offending me, you're really awful, and I don't want to be around you. You just need to put your foot down if you really want some kind of change. Like, none of the things he did were jokes. They were cruel, they were unusual, and they were mean. There's no mutual repertoire between the two of you that would even excuse any of this in the slightest. Like, friendships are supposed to be relaxing, easy, joyful, and uplifting. And this is literally just not that. It probably feels like this friendship is some kind of chore. And that's not fair for you in the slightest. Like, that really isn't. He may actually think that these things that he's doing are funny, but you know what? They're not funny. They're immature and they're very cruel. So if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would put up with that in the slightest. I would definitely say that it's time to call it quits on this guy, and I would move on and find other friends. My fiance is terrible with money, even going as far as falling for scams for fake Taylor Swift concert tickets. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So my fiance is terrible with money, and it really upsets me. She insists we spend money on stupid stuff that we don't need. For example, she recently made me go in half on patio furniture, which I didn't even really want, and wouldn't stop complaining until I agreed. The most recent debacle that has me mad beyond means is that she called me asking in a very demanding way that I loan her money to purchase Taylor Swift tickets from some people she found online. I say it's a bad idea, and it's likely a scam, and that we should be saving money for our honeymoon, which so far I'm the only one who's been saving for anything. She then gets mad at me, and I just have to give her the money to avoid an argument. And guess what? It turns out to be a complete scam. This situation angers me even more, as it really seems like things like the honeymoon are on the back burner in her mind, while selfish things like Taylor Swift concert tickets apparently take priority spending-wise. I guess I'm looking for advice on how to deal with this. Is there something I can do to stop her from being terrible with money? What should I do? Honestly, I don't know if there's anything you can do to stop your fiance from being terrible with money, but what you can do is stop caving anytime some kind of argument might come around. The fact that you cave so quickly just to avoid an argument is evidence enough that you need to really stand your ground. You need to say, no, I'm not giving you money for this thing. We need to save money for our honeymoon, and that's what I'm doing. And that might be your only saving grace when it comes to having any kind of financial responsibility. And unfortunately, unless some things change between you and your fiance, this is a really good window into how she's probably gonna spend money in your marriage. Like, you're just engaged right now. You're in the process of getting married, and she is already showing that she does not do well with money. And in my opinion, when it comes to a relationship, this is a very important aspect of it that you cannot ignore. So hopefully you're able to figure this one out, because I'm with you. If my fiance spent my money on tickets that turned out to be a scam, I would be furious as well. My entitled stepmother tried to destroy a baby shower by changing all of the decorations around to what she specifically wanted. But in the end, we get revenge and we get the last laugh, as we switched all of her horrible decorations around at the last second, completely shocking her and putting her in her place. Here's what happened. So my fiance Jane found out that she was pregnant back in June of 2021, and we announced it to all of our families in August. All of the names in this story are fake, by the way. At first, my stepmother was completely uninterested in our baby. Not that I expected much from that woman, whose actual reaction to our pregnancy announcement was to ask Jane if she was sure that it was mine, which is something even my dad yelled at her about. But she barely acknowledged the fact that we are expecting a baby. Instead, she was more interested in my stepbrother, who was also engaged and would give her beautiful grandbaby soon. But you know what? I have no complaints. We do not want her involved, and we didn't even have to say anything in the first place. Planning our baby shower was complicated. Both me and Jane would have to work until the holidays, and I wanted to be involved. The due date was February 2022, so we decided on early January as the best period of time. We enlisted 2 people as planners, my sister, who we will call Laura, and Jane's best friend by the name of Nina. Me and Jane are mostly laid-back people. We didn't want a big party, nor did we want to spend too much money on it. We were saving for both our baby and the wedding, so we decided early on that the shower would be co-ed. It would also have to be indoors again in January, and we settled on a guest list of about 25 people plus about a dozen kids. We came up with the idea of a pizza party. So me, Jane, and someone by the name of Luke, who was my brother-in-law, have had homemade pizza nights weekly since I moved in, and we thought it would be fun to incorporate that into the shower. Nina even found an event venue with a pizza oven oven. And Laura figured out ways to incorporate classic baby shower stuff into the theme. The resulting plans were awesome. You would make your own pizza, you would have non-alcoholic drinks, and plain bodysuits for the kids to customize. Nina and Laura mixed pizza decor with baby decor and found pizza-shaped sweets. It almost seemed messy, and I was surprised they made it work, but we loved it. Most of the planning was finished by the middle of November. Well, later that month, my stepbrother's fiance left him for her ex. They'd been together for 4 years at that point, and it was both sudden and traumatizing for him. He was absolutely devastated. My stepmother then realized the grandkids she dreamed of would take longer to come than she had thought. So naturally, without her son's future children to obsess over, she moved over to mine. Suddenly, my stepmother went from aloof relative to excited grandma-to-be. Her Facebook posts were incredibly tacky, basically hamming it up as the future grandma of my kid. At first, we were too busy finishing things up at work, as well as getting ready for the holidays to worry about any of that. But it did not take long for her to start pestering us about planning the baby shower, as well as a gender reveal. We denied the possibility of a gender reveal, no offense to those who like them, but we really don't. Plus, we decided to wait until birth to find that out. My stepmother tried to get us to find out and tell her as some kind of Christmas present, but we definitely did not do that. We also denied her the baby shower. She told my father, and he talked Laura into letting her help out with the plans. Laura was still living with them at the time, so she didn't have much of a choice. She called Lena and they met my stepmother for coffee. Though I wasn't there for that meeting, Laura told me what happened later. Before they could even mention their plans, my stepmother started talking about hers. According to Laura, she pulled a shockingly thick binder out, complete with the words "Oh baby" on the cover, with colorful tabs and pieces of fabric poking out, all from her purse, and skipped to the shower section. It was short compared to the rest of the binder, but it was still very long, and it was all to describe her one and only baby shower project. Laura sent me pictures, and oh boy, it was a mess. I'll give you this. It looked like the best baby shower you would ever see on Instagram. That being said, it also was barely functional and obviously very expensive. There were balloons, oversized teddy bears, giant alphabet blocks, and cringeworthy signs everywhere. My stepmother was going for pretty over cozy, with uncomfortable chairs and some fancy food ideas that didn't even look edible. Most of them just had soft cheeses, which Jane could not eat. The color palette was just 3 different shades of pink, with gold accents all over the place. Now, we would be fine with a pink shower if it at least tried to mix things up just a little bit, but my stepmother's pictures looked like Barbie had puked all over Hello Kitty's birthday party. When Nina tried to remind her that we didn't know if it was a boy or a girl, my stepmother said, "Well, I just know that it's a girl." But as a spoiler alert, it wasn't. My stepmother also wanted an all-female, child-free party with fancy caterers and alcohol. She had written down a guest suggestion list containing some of her closest friends, and on that list, my mom wasn't there and neither was Jane's mom. She also planned party games that no one had any interest in trying out. Basically, the only thing everyone could agree on was to hold the party indoors. Laura and Nina weren't given an opportunity to show her their plans until she was done, and once they could, they explained that while they could find a way to incorporate some of the stepmother's ideas, they had already settled on a pizza theme. She tried to protest, but Laura stated that it was kind of them to even offer that, as the shower was a month away and we had already greenlit their plans. The stepmother even tried to call me just to try and get them to change their minds, but I just repeated their words back to her. My dad also found out that he couldn't come to the baby shower, so he didn't have a say in anything anymore. The holidays came around and the subject was dropped. My stepmother seemed to be okay with the pizza party idea, and Nina managed to pair some of the pink decor that my stepmother wanted just to try and match it with the blue stuff, and even added one of the huge teddy bears. Fast forward to a week before the shower, and Jane was almost 8 months pregnant. Everything had been bought, and all the guests had been RSVP'd, and pretty much everything was ready to go. The shower was set up at 7:00 p.m., but my stepmother offered to get to the venue earlier to prepare for everything. Now, Laura agreed, mostly because she knew that the stepmother would complain if she didn't get to do anything, and the venue even let them drop off their decorations before the party. Me and Jane promised to get there at 6. 2 days before the shower, however, the venue called up Nina. They told her that my stepmother had stopped by to drop off large, heavy boxes of what she called a little surprise for all of us. She informed them that she planned on showing up at 3:30 p.m. to start setting up for the baby shower, and they were calling to reinforce that the venue was only booked past 4 p.m. since the stepmother almost threw a tantrum when they told her that. All the decor was still at Nina's place, so she called Laura to check if they'd left anything with the stepmother. Thankfully, my sister is both smart and used to this garbage, so she drove to the venue the next day and asked to see the stepmother's boxes. She told me she wasn't even surprised at its contents when she opened them, but she was still shocked at the stepmother's audacity. All of the boxes were filled with pink, frilly decorations, and some of them seemed to be the exact same items that the stepmother had initially shown Laura and Nina. The signs, the balloons, the placemats, everything. And it was right about then that Laura realized why the stepmother intended to get to the venue earlier. She was gonna set up that baby shower that she had planned and pretty much force all of us to party in the Barbie nightmare hellscape. She called Nina to try and figure out what to do. Neither of them could come at 4 p.m., so it was almost inevitable for the stepmother to get her way. The most obvious solution, though, that they came up with was to throw everything away, but Laura had a better idea. That night, they called me and Jane. They said to me, "So, do you want to destroy a party in 2 hours?" Laura got home and invited the stepmother to go to the salon with her, lying about having some kind of coupons or something like that. The stepmother agreed, and they planned on going right after the stepmother was done preparing for the baby shower. At 4 p.m. the next day, the stepmother got to the venue. She was done setting things up by 5 o'clock and quickly left to meet Laura at the salon. Once they got together, Laura texted Nina that the coast was clear, and after that, me, Jane, and Nina got to work on the venue. And sure enough, my stepmother had prepared her party, and this place was so pink that it made all of us nauseous. For the next 2 hours, Laura distracted the stepmother at the salon, while the three of us quickly took down every piece of decor that the stepmother had put up and replaced it with a pizza party stuff. We set up the activities. We made up the tables. We put every pink item we found back in my stepmother's stupid boxes. It was actually really fun too. We were done only minutes before the shower started. A handful of guests arrived before the stepmother did, so I barely saw her all night. Laura told me that when they got there, my stepmother's jaw dropped as she tried to make sense of what had happened to all her pink decor. My sister just smiled and whispered in her ear, "Nice try," and went to help Luke customize a bodysuit. Overall, the baby shower was everything that we had hoped for. Our friends were there, people had fun, and we had a ton of pizza. So I didn't really care that the stepmother spent the whole party literally sulking in the corner. At one point, Nina did catch her trying to put little pink bows on top of the cupcakes, but she quickly shut that down. I gave Laura and Nina full credit for saving the day. My stepmother's interest in our baby quickly passed after that. She stopped wearing her future grandma shirts, didn't come to see us at the hospital when he was born, and even refused to acknowledge that he was a boy until she met him a few weeks later. And up until we went no contact with her, she was a very loose definition of the word grandmother, and I couldn't be more grateful that my son will never know her. That is seriously hilarious. This stepmother seriously thought that she was being slick. Did she seriously think she could go in early and change everything about this baby shower to what she wanted? Like, what in the world is wrong with her? Why would you do that to someone else's baby shower? It kind of makes sense why this original poster went no contact with this lady, because this behavior is so insane. If she wanted to be involved, she should have fallen in line with what they already planned months in advance. The original poster goes on to say that they've only ever had problems with this lady. So honestly, for the sake of your own son, I don't blame you for kicking her out of your life. She is clearly toxic and she doesn't actually care about you. She clearly only considers you as second best, and she definitely doesn't care about that boy at all. So hopefully this lady stays out of your life completely, because this lady seriously tried to destroy this baby shower, and that is absolutely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. An entitled customer refuses to get served by a woman at a restaurant that I work at, and even goes as far as to lie and claim that I was being rude to him. And this was all incredibly frustrating and so offensive. Here's what happened. So I've been in the service industry for 9 years, and I've dealt with all kinds of people, but this one really stuck with me. This happened a little over a year ago. So in my restaurant, we have a teamwork-based system where we greet each other's tables, run food for each other's tables, and clear off everybody else's tables. It's a great system, and we all hold each other accountable. We're still responsible for our own sections, and we don't have to tip pool, so we still keep the tips even if other servers help out. I got sat with a middle-aged couple, and I saw them get greeted by a server. Once the server was getting their waters made, I told them I could take the waters to them. I went to drop them off, and I did my whole spiel. "Hello and welcome, my name is such and such, and I will be taking care of you this evening." The man immediately was confused and said that they already had a server. This happens sometimes when we greet each other's tables, but I explained to them that the server by the name of Eric was getting them started with their drinks, while I will be their main server. The man was very certain that Eric was his server, but eventually gave in when I kept explaining to them that Eric was helping me out. I walked off to give them a few moments to decide on their entrees, and I saw them talking to my manager from a distance. My manager came back and told me that he does not want to be served by me and insisted that Eric was a far better server than me. And this is with what little interaction he had with the both of us. He also told her that he would not take no for an answer and he would only be served by Eric since apparently I was very rude. Now, Eric had already been cut and was almost ready to leave, but my manager had him finish serving the table. He was mad that the guy didn't just keep me as their server, and I was upset that someone would lie and call me rude. Later on, Eric finished with the table and they paid out. My manager asked if the guy paid with a card, and Eric told her that he had. So my manager looked at the card and saw his full name. I asked what she was doing, and she said that the way he was talking to her was really demeaning. She said he was surprised that she was a manager and asked if there was anyone else that he could talk to. She said that he had talked to her as if she was stupid and didn't know anything. She looked up his name and found his Facebook along with his business. We clicked on the website to his dentistry business and we followed what he was doing just for a little bit. We also noticed that there was one single review for his business, which is weird, but I guess not super uncommon. So we decided to click on it and see what it was all about. And it was a single 1-star review. It read, "Do not go here." I was very uncomfortable around this man as he tried to hide his blatant misogyny. We were shocked, but honestly not that surprised. I guess it was the first time I was really around someone who actually hated women. At first, I was really upset because he made me feel like I did something wrong, but then I realized there was really nothing I could have done to make him like me. Even Eric said that during his service, the man did not let his significant other talk at all and would switch between calling her his girlfriend and his wife. I also can't imagine running a business where half of your clientele are women while still basically treating them all this way. That guy seriously sounds incredibly creepy, and I'm really surprised that the manager allowed this guy to stick around. Like, first off, Eric was out the door. His shift was over and he was about to leave. But this manager decided to try and make him stay just to make this misogynistic customer happy. Like, seriously, she should have told him to take a hike. You do not have to put up with that kind of behavior, and honestly, I would just tell them to leave if I was in her shoes. And it's so annoying that he just lied about this lady and how she was being rude to him even though that's not true. So hopefully this guy never comes back, and if he does and tries that again, hopefully the manager has some kind of backbone and they tell him to get lost. An entitled man-child demands a full refund after we won't allow his untrained dog into our breakfast room. And now, after putting him in his place, I'm waiting for his bad review to pop up online about our hotel. Here's what happened. So this happened just this morning when I finished my shift as a night receptionist at a 4-star family-style hotel. I had an encounter with an entitled man, his significant other, and their dog. They were on their way to the breakfast room, which leads past the front desk, where I informed them that dogs are not allowed in our breakfast room, and if they would kindly consider leaving the dog in the room or eating their breakfast in the lobby or even their room. I gave them some kind of option they could work with. And the reason why we don't let the dogs in the breakfast room is because it is fully carpeted. Now, this entitled guy is a butch dude. He's big, he has tattoos all over, and he pretty much immediately exploded on me, yelling at me by saying, "You're a dog hotel. Of course my dog is allowed in there." I guess he thinks he's pretty intimidating. I explained that while we allow dogs on one floor of the hotel, as well as one of the restaurants, there are unfortunately multiple reasons for the no dog policy in our breakfast room, specifically because of allergies or phobias of the other guests, as well as food safety and then some. Usually we inform guests with dogs about this at check-in, and I apologize that it didn't happen this time, even though it probably did and he just didn't listen. I also explained that we are by no means a dog hotel and we do not advertise it as such. Well, as you could probably guess, he got really aggressive and yelled louder, disturbing every guest that was present. He demanded a full refund for his room and told me they would book a different hotel next time. He called me all these names and then some, but I just apologize again for their bad experience, and while I understand that they will book somewhere else next time, a refund is not an option. And as you can probably guess, he did not like that answer in the slightest. By the way, the dog was long-haired. He was not on a leash, and during our discussion, it was roaming around the hotel lobby, approaching other guests as well as barking. So this dog was by no means trained at all. So there was no way you could have it in a room with food and many strangers. This was definitely not a service dog. His significant other observed the whole thing from the lobby and did nothing to keep the dog under control, while her jerk of a boyfriend was absolutely rude to me and everybody else. I ended up informing my manager about the refund request, which I'm pretty sure will be denied, and got out of there as soon as possible. Now it's time for bed. I'm currently waiting to see that bad review pop up online just so I can have a good laugh about this ridiculous dude and his tiny man energy. Yeah, that guy thought he could get away with whatever he wants simply because he's big and has a bunch of tattoos. Like, no, that's not a dog hotel. They don't advertise as such, that's not how it works. And this guy should feel lucky that his dog was allowed in the hotel in the first place. A lot of places just don't let that slide at all. They don't have a specific hotel floor allowing that, so booking somewhere else probably won't be an option depending on where this place is. So I really just hate people like this. And it doesn't help that the dog is clearly not trained. They're walking around all over the breakfast room floor, they're coming up to strangers, they're barking, and no one's doing anything about it. So even if this dog was trained, it's evidence that this entitled guy's not going to take care of the dog at all. He's going to allow this behavior, and it's just going to escalate out of control. That's usually how these things work. So good for the original poster for standing their ground. They didn't allow this guy to walk all over him, and they took this negative attitude in stride. And honestly, when it comes to complaints and weird entitled customers like this, standing your ground really is the best thing to do that will shut them down. My best friend is in love with me, and I don't know what to do considering the fact that I now have another boyfriend, and I'm not sure how they are going to react. Here's what happened. So to start things out, we've been best friends for roughly 2 years now. It started off great. We get along really well, and we are just comfortable around each other. I was in a relationship in the beginning of our friendship, and eventually I broke up with the guy. Around the time that we broke up, my friend expressed that he had feelings for me. I explained that I didn't have those feelings in return, and this would be strictly a friendship between the two of us. He said he agreed, and off we went. Ever since that moment, I've been trying my best to set boundaries and stay away from anything that might have been a little bit too much of a relationship, just to avoid giving him the wrong impression. For example, the only physical contact we have is a hug, and that's only when we first see each other, nothing more. If we go out, I don't let him pay for stuff, as well as anything else that would make it seem like we're a couple. I've been seeing a new guy, and it's been amazing so far. I really see this going somewhere, and I'm really worried that this relationship with my friend will give him the wrong impression. I don't do anything I'd be uncomfortable with if he did it with his female friends. I don't know what to do. I really value my friendship, but him liking me is getting to be a bit too much. I don't want to lose him as a friend since he is one of my only friends. What should I do? I can definitely see both sides of this. I can totally see that the original poster would be worried that her friendship with this guy friend would somehow seem weird to her new boyfriend. Like, I totally understand that anxiety, and I think you're right to be cautious about any kind of false narrative. Like, that's understandable in my opinion. But maybe the problem is that you don't have other friends. Maybe you should try to get other female friends in your life. That way it'll be less sketchy, and you can have more people around you than just this one guy who clearly has a crush on you. And let's be honest, that crush has not gone away. If he still is spending all this time with you, and he's getting a free hug from you anytime he sees you, I can guarantee you that he probably still likes you. And I know from the boyfriend's perspective, eventually he's gonna find out about this guy, and he's gonna see you giving him a hug every time he comes by. And that's probably gonna be a big question mark in his head. Like, who is this guy and why are you hugging him? I thought I was the only guy that you wanted to be with. Like, that conversation is definitely going to come up. So if you really do want to try and keep this friend around, I would at least make the effort of broadening your friend group so that you can try and avoid just only having him as a friend. Because otherwise, I just don't think that this relationship is going to work out. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.